All right. Welcome to the Prospect Podcast, the late night version here. Late night version. So we talk a little lower on the late night version versus when we have our 10 a.m. version. But yeah, no, we have a great guest today. Coach that's coach has been a head coach for coaching over 30 years and was a head coach at William Patterson for a very long time, William Patterson University. Was most recently at Sleepy Hollow in New York. um, Helps kids as well with recruiting and that part of the process. Um, and so we're really excited to have Jerry Flora on today. So it's great to have you on, Jerry.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. I really do. It means a lot.
Um, I'm Coach Human. I have Coach D with me right in the middle today. We never know where you're going to end up on this on StreamYard. We never know who's going to be on top or who's going to be on bottom here. So it's just random. But we're really excited to talk to Coach. Coach, if you could just, I mean, I touched on it. Obviously, Coach, you've fantastic career. You've coached many NFL players, and you're at William Parish for a very long time. If you could kind of talk about, your whole career as a coach and dive into that, so everybody understands.
Yeah. This is my 33rd year coaching. I started right out of college in '92 when I was at Iona College. Obviously now they're Iona University. And I started as a student worker, which is kind of one of the things that I take pretty pride in when we try and hire young men and women. So it was pretty much the coffee guy, the soda guy, and the make sure that there's one staple in the top right-hand corner of the scouting report guy. A job that I think a lot of young people don't appreciate now. Started there and, I coached with Croc for a number of years. He got let go. Unfortunately, I hooked up with Coach Rico at FDU Madison. I actually met him and Phil Longo at a camp the summer before at FDU, the old, not offense, defense, but Sports International, if you remember those camps.
Yep.
So I met Phil and I hit it off because we were both running shoot guys at the time because I had played for Coach Spence, who's down at Georgetown now. And he's been all over the place. And we kind of hit it off. And I went to FDU for a season. I was driving back and forth from New Rochelle. I was teaching in New Rochelle, getting in the car, driving an hour and 15 minutes. I was that desperate to coach. I was fortunate that Coach gave me a GA. So I pretty much prepared all my stuff after practice, gave him the stuff. He ran the first 20 minutes of practice until I became I actually got married that summer, so I started to stay in the facility a couple of nights a week because we used to bring the kids in on Sunday and have off on Monday. So I worked it out where I didn't have to come back till Tuesday. I did that for a year, and it was just too much. They hired Fred Mariani, who came from Fordham and Lehigh. I knew that I was teaching right behind the school. I knew the AD at the time, asked him, said Fred was looking for coaches. He hired me as the special teams coordinator and receivers coach. I was the bridge, probably the bridge with the alumni too, because I took over the football alumni. And then, then Phil decided he was leaving. He went with Larry to William Patterson. So he had hired Phil as his full-time guy. Phil and I kind of stayed in touch, and then year 3 at Iona, Phil, I guess, was taking a job somewhere. I forgot where he went from William Patterson. I know he's been all over the place. And he called me and said, no, I forgot where he went, but I want to say Temple or Delaware or some bigger school. I don't remember, but he called me and said, he's going to be leaving, and he knew I wanted to be a full-time coach if I was interested. So I said yes. So he got me in touch with Larry. I interviewed. I got the job. And I worked full-time there for Larry for 3 years. Unfortunately, he got let go. Then I had a great opportunity to work with Mike Miello and Ed Stinson, which was just an absolute – I think it was the polish of my career. I tell Mike and Ed all the time. Ironically enough, at the time, William Patterson only had one full-time guy. It was the head guy and one full-time guy. So when he hired Ed, I'll never forget. I was in my office packing up all my stuff because they never bring on the new guy. They usually just clean house, and I kind of ran the program in the interim because I was on contract. So I kind of ran the program by myself from probably Thanksgiving right up until early February. Because if you remember, Mike was doing his clinics with Tony Clark,
yep.
Parkwood Marriott. So they introduced him the Monday or the Thursday before, and then he had the clinic. But he actually ended up hiring me full time. He went down and talked to Sabrina at the time and asked me if I wanted to coach there. I said, I can't do it for $6,000. And he said that, I kind of went through everything that I had to do myself. So he just kind of kept me on and really just helped my career because I don't know where I would have ended up. And I worked with those guys for 3 years. Great staff. We had a couple big wins against Rowan and Wilkes, a couple of nationally ranked teams. And then those guys kind of went their separate ways. Eddie went to Queen of Peace, I think at the time. And then Mike was just, ready for retirement. They gave me an interim deal for a year. I had 2 contracts. I went 4-6 my first year. And then I spent 10 seasons at William Patterson. I fell 2 wins short of Coach Gallagher's record, unfortunately. But Jerry became a mentor of mine, and he helped me get through a lot of the stuff that, goes on at different schools. Obviously, he had been an icon at William Patterson, so he knew a lot. So I kind of leaned on him. And then I got to the end. Once we merged with the Capital Conference and we were playing the likes of Wesley and Salisbury and Christopher Newport and Frostburg, we were a little bit in over our heads, so to speak. There was an opportunity in recreation. I took that job for a year. I became the director of club sports. Unfortunately, there was no budget for that at the end of the year, so they cut me loose. So my contract ended, and then I kind of just, from there, took a couple of scouting classes, tried to get a scouting job in the NFL. One of my former players, who now is the line coach with the Saints, was the assistant line coach of the Saints, got me an interview with Terry Fontenot, who's the GM now for the Falcons, and I had interviewed him for my class. And unfortunately, because of COVID, the NFL wasn't allowing anyone new in facilities. So I had a chance to really maybe do an internship with the Saints, but that kind of fell apart. I worked with a couple of different companies, obviously, volunteered with Sleepy Hollow, ran that show for 3 years, did a year at Stepanak, and now I'm at St. Thomas Aquinas College in Rockland County. So I only really had 1 year off. I think the COVID fall. But the COVID spring, I coached at Sleepy as a volunteer. And then the year after I left William Patterson, I had a year left, so I went to work with Danny Garrett at Kane for a season. That was kind of interesting because I was working full-time at William Patterson, and I was the OC at Kane. And our only win that year was against William Patterson. That was the first time I was in the visiting press box. It was freaking weird to go, I actually went in the morning, worked out in the rec center, walked down the little service road, met Danny in the bus. It was just, the whole thing was weird. I can't explain. So, and that's where I'm at now. So long, lot of information, a lot of different stuff, a lot of really great people I worked with. So
that's phenomenal stuff. It's quite a wild ride. When you're coaching in college, especially at the D3 level, and then the route that you ended up going and continuing to go and staying in coaching. It's incredible. I mean, I remember when you were head coach at William Patterson all those years. What was from when you first started coaching? Because you touched on it a little bit in the beginning, when you took over at William Patterson to now, many years later, what are some of the things that you've seen that's changed within coaching in college and high school?
Well, I think that's a really, really good question. I actually had a conversation with a friend of mine about that this morning. I think the first thing that's gone is a lot of coaches lost the art for recruiting and evaluating. I was fortunate, I learned as a student worker. So I learned from the bottom up. And, I went on the road. I was carrying the bins, carrying the recruiting material. I thought I was the guy, but it took me a couple of years. And then I realized now looking back, I wasn't the guy. I needed some time. And I know a little bit more. Like when I was at William Patterson, I remember I had hired a young kid, a high school kid that was an OC in high school. Now he's a head coach. And I remember he came in my office and he was working with me for maybe a week and a half. And he's like, Coach, I think I'm ready to be the offensive coordinator. I said, in college? I said, here? He's like, yeah. I said, okay, I got no problem with that. He goes, really? I go, yeah, seriously. So I went on my board and I drew up a 2x2 set, and I drew up a blitz that we see all the time, that boss blitz where they slant and they send 2 guys off the edge. So they're sending 4 guys off the weak side. I said, if you can protect that, it's your job. So I'm going to go to the bathroom. And I knew I was going to go to the bathroom. He's going to be in the same spot when I came back, staring at the board. And this is part of what I'm talking about, because some of it's recruiting and some of it is understanding everyone's got a place. And I remember I came back. He wasn't in the same place because he was sitting now before he was standing. And he seemed perplexed. And I'm like, I don't understand what's so hard about this. I said, if you can't protect that, you can't be the offensive coordinator. And people always say some of the best coaches, head coaches, are former line coaches. And when you got a line coach, I mean, look at the success Kyle's having at Texas. I played with Kyle, and, there's a lot of guys that I know that are line coaches. I mean, even look in the NFL. I mean, because you got to know the whole game. So I said to them, I said, listen, if you can't protect that, then we're going to need a new quarterback every time we drop back. And we only carry 4 quarterbacks. So needless to say, we went through that season. He coached my quarterbacks. The season ended. He wanted to come back for another year. He came to me in the spring and said, I think I'm ready now. I said, you ready to block that scheme? And he blocked it without a problem. I said, you're the offensive coordinator. And, he's now doing a really good job at high school in New York. He's building a powerhouse at North Rockland. His name is James Hickey. But my point is, the first lost art is the evaluation piece, like watching film, looking for the right things on film. It kills me when I talk to prospects about highlight films. And, there's no need for anything more than 3 minutes. Guys are sending me 9-minute films or 8-minute films. They're like, listen, I can tell in the first 5 plays if you can play or not. Right. But I usually go by 3 minutes as the cutoff. And I just think it's just a lost art, the whole recruiting piece, the evaluating piece. Everybody just wants to get the high-end guy. I mean, there's a lot of guys at William Patterson. I mean, we had our limitations. Montclair was Montclair. They were a powerhouse. Rowan was really, really good. TCNJ was in a different mind of its own. And Kane, they had facilities. They had Division I facilities. And then it was us. So I remember being in houses of kids that were looking at Montclair and looking at Rowan, and at the time even looking at Salisbury and Wesley. And, you got to find a way to sell. And I just don't think that a lot of people, I think that's a lost art, the selling piece. And then the other piece that I think is a lost art is kind of the self-evaluation. Like even now at Stack, we're playing West Point Friday night up at West Point. And, I just did a self-scout on us in the middle of the week to find out kind of what our tendencies are. So I was able to make some adjustments to some of the stuff so we're ready to play Friday night. And one of the young kids on the staff goes, wow, Coach, that sounds like a lot of work. I said, everything is. Yeah. I said, yeah, you got to run the report. It's 50 pages. You got to go through every single formation. Is it better to run it weak or strong? Is it better with motion or without? Do you run it into the boundary or not? You want it coming in or going out? These are the things I think people have lost. I think those are really the 2 big things that people lose, because I've been around a lot of young kids. They see what they see on TV. And that's it. Mm-hmm. They don't see what goes by. I love when people say, when I come in on Sunday, when we have meetings, oh, dude, did you see the Alabama game yesterday? Oh, man, I was up. Alabama's got a football team? People don't realize, football coaches, I watch 70 hours of film. I don't have time to watch the Alabama game. Mm-hmm. If I'm watching the Alabama game, I'm not doing my job. So I think that's a major piece, Shu. I think that's strong. Even the guys on Sunday. Did you see the NFL? I haven't seen an NFL game. What week is this? 8?
Yeah.
I haven't put an NFL. I put it on as background noise, and that's it.
Yeah.
I haven't watched a game. I couldn't tell you who's in the top 20 in the country right now in football. Then I wouldn't be doing my job. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, I think that definitely answers a good amount of it. I think part of the issue with evaluation is a lot of times the younger coaches would have been relied to be able to do that, right? To be able to learn how to evaluate players, and they want to jump past that. And when they come into coaching, they, the ability to watch film and break down film, and then to be able to come up with tendencies and to be able to put a report together. I mean, to me, it's crazy because you now with AI, you could literally take all your information, put it in the Chat GPT, ask it a bunch of questions, and half the work is getting done for you anyway. You just have to look at the results to make sure what's correct and what isn't correct. But some of these guys don't even know what's correct and what isn't correct. So, but like literally, you could run it through the AI and get a lot of your answers. But but that's the part that I think that a lot of coaches have to learn, and it has to be, not only does it have to be taught to them, but they have to be willing to learn it, right? So that's, when you talked about handling that weak side blitz, and the coach was, thought he could do it, and then he wasn't ready to do it. Then he eventually learned how to do it. Like part of coaching and part of the process. I think that part is there is a disconnect between coaches that are, I would say, 30 or younger, and coaches that are 50 and above, right? And then guys that are in between those ages are either like Derek is either one camp or the other. Like they either lean towards kind of the way that it was always done in the past, like as far as going through the process, or they go towards where the younger guys are, where they kind of want to just move up as quickly as humanly possible, and it doesn't matter what it is. I think college football, the way it is now with the transfer portal, has created a lot of that too, because since players are going to move anyway, right? Obviously, it was coaches before, but now since players are going to move anyway, it doesn't matter how you feel about the transfer portal. That's going to create a situation where everybody is going to look out for number one, which is themselves. Right? So that it's created like an every man for themselves standpoint, and things like loyalty and like trying to learn from somebody who you think can help your career and be with them for several years. That's going away at the college level, and that trickles down into the high school mentality, in my opinion. This is just my opinion, but like it trickles into the high school mentality a little bit too, because what do guys see? Like, this guy was here this year, he's over there this year, he's over there next year, he's over there next year, boom, he's coordinator, right? So they think that's what they have to do. They have to do that in order to succeed. And there is some to learning from multiple different people. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that is part of it, especially when you're young. But learning those evaluation skills, I think you nailed it from that side. I'm watching film. I mean, some people think that they turn on Huddle and they just like stare at the screen and that's watching film, right? Right, Jerry? Like you're like. I remember, like when I first learned, and I think I told this once before. We used to write every play down by hand, with a pencil. Yeah. So it's because in case I had to erase something that I made a mistake on, you know what I mean? Oh, no, it's not this. You know what I mean?
I remember when I worked for Fred, because Fred was the first one that started doing that because he had gotten it from Lehigh. So from, I guess, Pete Limbo at the time was at Lehigh. So he had a book. He had 4 books for every game in a box. So every coach had a certain game. And so I got maybe first game, 5th game, 8th game. And I got the book. And I remember I used to have to go home. You had to you had the really long cord with the, what was it they called it, the commando, the remote.
That's right.
The commando, and then you were literally
the cowboy remote, the cowboy.
Right, exactly. And we were using the stencil thing to draw the plays.
Yeah, to draw the circles.
Right. And then at the end of the book, Fred had enough knowledge at the end that the last 4 pages were summary pages. You had to summarize everything and then give him the book. And then after, like, if he didn't came back to you in a half an hour, you at least knew you did your right job. But if he came back to you right away, like a teacher, man, you got yelled at like it was no one's business, and you had to go back in and do it all over again. That art is gone.
That was a great learning environment for young coaches, because, like, to this day, even though obviously I do, like, my end result of any plays I do is on the computer, but I still draw my initial sketches on paper because and then I'll go do it on the computer once I start to get where I want it to be. And then I'm like, okay, because, software, I mean, it drives me nuts, some of the software, but drawing by hand, I could be like, oh, it's much quicker and easier for me to erase, to rewrite, erase, rewrite. Oh, this isn't going to work. Oh, this is better. This is, when you do it on a computer, it's better as a finished product, because if you hand it to somebody, they could see it and everything. But in your rough drafts, that's what I loved it for. Like the same thing. Like I would write, I don't know if Derek does this at all, but like I would write notes. I'm like, I would write all the possibilities of a drawing that I had, like the names. Like I could call it this. Here would be tags off of it, off this play, and then I would end up not using half those plays. I'm like, you know what, that's not going to work, and I just put it aside, keep it, because maybe I would need it in the future, but like that's not going to work. And that's kind of I think a lot of young guys think of, and Derek, you're correct, because I haven't coached high school in a few years. I just coach my son's team now, and but the coaches now young coaches now
have no clue,
would think that would be a waste of time. But absolutely. I think the mental exercise, I like the mental exercise of my thoughts going through it, and literally, like in my head, I thinking about what the play looks like in my head, and like with the players in it, and then I draw my circles and all the where everybody's going, and then I'm like, okay, well, that's not coming out exactly what I thought it would be, right? And then you go back and you revise it, right? And it could be even simple, because obviously what you talked about, if they do this, right, they blitz this guy, well, what are you going to do in that situation? Do you need to read that guy? Do you need to block that guy? And I think that exercise, because everybody just, feels like they can run the coolest play, and they don't know that, like, people have to be blocked. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's really the finality of it, because growing up in the era of drawing, if I had to draw, let's say I had to do the Duquesne game, and I had to break down 3 games. It took a long time to break down 3 games and draw it out. So like you, I like the fun. I have a book just like this, just a regular notebook. Yep. So like we're breaking down West Point. So as I start to think of stuff to do, I write it in the book. So there may be 75 pages, like you said, but the finality of it is at the end. When now that I have the tip sheet done and the game plan done, I'll go back and look, and I think I probably only use 5 pages.
Right.
But I use 75, and what I'll do is I'll just keep going. I'll go to the next page and just go to the next page and go to the next page. And then I go back and look, and, it's the finality of it for me. Whereas when you do it online, like I'll use Huddle play scripts, and I put our tip sheet together with the play scripts.
Yep.
And I use installs for the game plan. But, you put it up there and it's there. So it's not the same as when you write it down. So, it's
right. And when you have to delete, like, exactly that's like, to me, always the final product. It's much harder to go through the exercise of your thoughts in that fashion, because you're constantly like deleting these lines and stuff like that, and you're like you have to redraw it on a. Whereas with pen, and I think younger guys think of that as kind of like a waste of time, from their standpoint, like, hey, this is what the play is, and like, but it's interesting.
The problem to that is they didn't have to deal with what we dealt with.
Right. Correct.
Right. I'll tell you what, for me,
from the mental part of the game, right? I'm sorry, go ahead, Derek.
No, I was saying one of the best things was my first 2 years, coaching was I had to, hey, your responsibility is you draw the scout cards, right? Like just drawing scout cards, for whatever offense, defense, specials, to have in that binder. So the DC or the OC, you know what I mean? Like, but that every day of sitting there drawing those circles and scout cards and doing that, and hey, all right, Tuesday short yardage, or Wednesday now we're going down a distance, stuff like having that was one of the biggest and greatest teachers ever, right? Because that's just you play the game and you think you know it, but then you go into coaching and it's a whole different side of it, and the preparation. And look, there may be days when you made 50 scout cards for the week and you use 10 of them, or you don't use them at all, right? And you're like, what are we doing? But learning that process, and I'm like you, Dave, like I still draw everything out before I put it on Huddle or put it into a practice script. And you're right. The young guys look at me like I'm crazy. Like, why are you writing that down? Like that makes, like, what are you doing? You can do all of that with this. Yeah. I said, well, this is a process of like how you learn it. You know what I'm saying? Even for my players, like I'll make them draw out the formations in the summer to kind of get it into their heads. And I just think you're right, Coach. It's a lost art for young guys because they just want to get to where they got to go as fast as possible without, putting in the work and doing some of those other things that, like, really kind of get you to that next level so that you can deal with issues that arise, right? Because coaching is a lot coaching on the fly, or how to, what you're dealing with in fast time. You don't have time to like think. You got to like know what's going on and have an answer for it like fast. I don't think a lot of coaches can do that because everything they've done is structured,
right?
Where they just don't have that knowledge.
I'll never forget when I hired Sean Williams, who's the head coach there now. So when I hired Sean, because I'm good friends with Charles Way, because Charlie at the time was working in engagement in the NFL. So he wanted to try and bridge the gap between some of the former players. That's why I hired Tank, who played for the Eagles, and that's why I hired Tony Woods. And we had a really good defensive staff in 15. It was all NFL guys. It was a blessing. I'd give someone to do the 7-on-7 stuff, and I'd go down to the defense and I'd take notes. Those are all former first-round draft picks. And I'll never forget, now Sean's in the Ring of Honor for the Giants. He had a really good career as a safety. He played during a really good time. I happened to walk by the office, and Chad was my defensive coordinator, and I see Sean sitting at this table in Chad's office drawing up cards. And now Sean had only been working with us he'd never coached before. I mean, he played,
right?
But just because you're an NFL player doesn't mean you're going to be a good coach. I mean, we all know that.
Correct.
I mean, any player, doesn't matter.
Right.
So he's sitting there drawing up cards. And I go, dude, you can't get a better job than this? I busted his
Yeah.
Chad Brand's the defensive coordinator. He's sitting over there, and he's Sean's like, I'm the new guy, man. He said, the new guy has to – I said, new guy? I said, you played in the NFL. He goes, Coach, I'm just learning. I'm learning from my man. So he literally – the 4 years he was my DB's coach, one of the most humble guys I know, one of the nicest guys I know. The amount of stuff that I felt like I taught him, which is crazy because he played on the highest level. But, he learned a lot of that. And so even to this day, he said he didn't even use Huddle. He draws all this shit out.
Right.
Because you get used to it.
You get used to it. Yeah. And I think, like one of the things I love about stuff like Huddle is that, you can tag things really well, but like, even when you tag them, you tag formations, emotions, like I got to go back and look at it because sometimes I'm like, that doesn't seem right. Like they never ran that play out of that. and you tagged it wrong. You know what I mean? So that's where drawing sometimes helps you out. Like it's another reference point because when you're going through it fast and you're tagging, sometimes you tag and then, when you run reports and if you tag things accidentally incorrectly, or it fills
now
it in,
your report's all over the place.
Your report says something different, right? So that's like a check for you, if you're, especially for, I would say, like, especially for the main plays that most people run, like or their core plays, that's the last thing you want to do is put a set that they don't run that core play out of, and you put it in there, and you're like, wait a minute, like now you're practicing an anomaly when there was no anomaly, you just tagged it incorrectly, or and there's a lot of people that don't know how to tag it. Like they're like, why do you tag it like that, and why do you tag it different? Like, do you tag it the way that you tag your play calls? Do you tag it differently? And I'm like, you got to do what's comfortable, but whatever works universally for the whole staff, so everybody understands what you're doing. You know what I mean? So, so they know what each thing means, because sometimes if you use your own verbiage, like that doesn't work on, someone might write something completely different out of your verbiage realm, and when you tag it. So it's really interesting. I'm curious as far as like players, like, because you talked about highlights and like, you tell them the 3 minutes, which I agree with, by the way. Like most of the time you could tell literally in the first 5 plays, like, once you know height, weight, speed, and you watch the first 5 plays, you kind of have a good idea already where it's going. But what do you tell kids, like high school kids, from a recruiting standpoint? Like, what do they need to start showing on film that looks good? Because I think a lot of them don't. Amazing with all the information that's out there, they don't understand. You know what I mean? So what do they need to be showing on film?
Yeah, when I took that scouting class with sports management and got that, I got a professional certificate in GM and scouting, so I got a chance to really dive into scout reports on the NFL level and so on and so forth. I learned 3 things about highlight films that I never knew, that I probably should have known, that I tell kids all the time, and I usually get them. They usually go, "Wow, really?" The first thing that I learned was, one of the things that college coaches are looking for is they want to see you put some time into it. So they don't want to see the games in chronological order. So like in huddle, you could just bing, 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 done, see you, bye. They want to see, random order. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, coaches don't want to see the same play from different angles. That means you don't have a lot of clips. So if there's an end zone shot of your play, and then you're making that same tackle from the press box, and you're making the same tackle from a sideline, and you got it on there in 3 different times during this video, it shows you don't have a lot of clips. And then the third thing that's really, I don't say that I've run into a lot of kids that do this, but you still have people that do it. Coaches don't want to see a guy making a play and pointing at the stands, doing this, making the neck thing. They don't want to see you standing over the guy after, because otherwise they're just done. They move on to the next guy, because that's that character piece that no one wants to get involved in. So I usually tell kids to do that, and then pick some different angles, but do a variety of stuff. Like running backs only put runs. You never see a running back put pass protection. You never see a running back run a route from the backfield, and then run a route from detached, and run a route from the receiver spot, or maybe go jet motion. Like, mix it up a little. Like if you're a tackle, they want to see you block screen on the perimeter. They want to see you block zone. They want to see you trap. They want to see you block to the next level. Like, there's so many more things than just like, if you're a linebacker, you put all the tackles on there. Like people say, like, okay, well, he's a good player, but there's no pass drops on there.
Right.
And these kids, they don't think of it that way. So it's coming from either one of 2. It comes from one of 3 places. It comes from their high school coach, which I'll be honest with you, I deal with a lot of them. I think high school coaches, some are into this recruiting piece and some aren't, and that's fine. But ultimately, the kid is the one that's suffering. So it comes from the high school coach, or it comes from the parents. And most of the parents maybe have played or haven't. They got full-time jobs. They don't have time. And then it comes from the kid, but the kid's not getting any guidance.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you how many films I get on a regular basis to watch, and I'm like, nah, dude, you can't send that film. You can't. Like, but coach, I made 17 copies of it. Yeah, but you can't send it. Who told you can send that film? So
Right.
like that's one of the things I do a lot more now. See, even though I do have my own recruiting business, and I have some clients. I've been fortunate to place a lot of guys. To me, my reputation is more important than me making about $1. So what I struggle with is the information that these kids are getting and the parents are getting and where they're getting it from. It's not right.
Very true. The biggest problem with that part of the business, having done a lot of it myself, is that like they want you to tell them what they want to hear, and that's not correct. Like,
Yeah.
like I could,
This
I could tell you where the stretch of where you might go, and I could tell you where the reality of where you might go. But like the stretch is actually the stretch. The reality is most likely where you're going to end up. You know what I mean? So but that's very hard. They can't handle. And in today's world with the transfer portal, and there's a lot of things I think there's positives and negatives to it, as there are for anything. But if you're a high school kid, recruiting is changed dramatically. Like you're not going to get recruited at the highest level unless you truly, truly, truly are an elite player. And people are like, well, what does that mean? I'm like, well, I don't know. Guys that would have been,
you'll know it when you see it.
Guys that would have been a Division I player would be maybe an FCS guy now, and an FCS guy might be a Division II guy. So, a lot of that's changed. And it depends on the position because linemen are scarce still. Yeah. Linemen are still scarce, probably more scarce than ever, good linemen. But skill-wise, there is no doubt, like there's an endless plethora of skill guys. And so, it depends on what your position is. But if you're a skill guy, that's definitely the case. If you're a lineman and you're tall and maybe, you have size, maybe because they're so hard to find really good, offensive linemen and guys that have actual size. But it's less and less of because you could just go get a guy, like you could go grab a guy if you're an FCS program, you could go grab a transfer from Division II. He might be a little shorter than your normal recruit as an offensive lineman, but this kid's been an all-conference player. He's going to come right in. He's going to start right away, okay, and and service you. And that's what's happening more and more. And then obviously there's also huge issues with the transfer portal where you're bringing in another school's culture into your culture, right? So whatever that is, could be good, could be bad, right? Like. And a lot of these coaches are seeing it. Like you're seeing all these guys talking about it now, like because obviously all the firings that have happened at Division I level. It's like, well, when you dive down the transfer portal realm, and it's one thing to bring in 10 guys, it's another thing to bring in 50. And my alma mater where I played, UConn,
right?
I mean. Because I do a show with another guy and then a guy who used to be the broadcaster for UConn when I played, and then a guy who played in the 2000s there and played in the NFL, and we talk about it all the time. Like there are games you're like, man, UConn can win 10 games, and then we lose a game like Rice, and we're like, transfer because the guys are not always on the same page. If something goes wrong, when it's rolling, hey, everybody's happy when you're winning. I mean, come on. But what happens when someone else hits you in the mouth and you're struggling in a game? Some of those guys are not you don't know it until you start to get into those games, but some of those guys, there's a reason why they're in the portal, And
it's funny to say that because my former one of my former DCs used to always say that if you want to be the top player, then you should be in the top 10%. Like if you go to a camp, you should be in the top 10% at the very least. If you're not in the top 10%, forget about it. So if you go to camp, it's 500 kids, you better be in the top 10% numbers-wise. That's part of the reason why the camps that I've been running, I partnered with Zybex Sports. So I met Mike and his wife at the combine a couple of years ago. And so now we have verifiable data at our camp. So our kids are all getting laser tested by the best in the business. So what we've done is he's created a power index, which they came up with a couple of years ago. Because remember when Clowney came out, he was probably one of the most freakish athletes that had come out. And as a defensive lineman, he was doing like running back numbers.
Right.
So he came up with this analytic system because they wanted to try and compare a McCaffrey and a Barkley to a Clowney, even though it's two totally different positions, because those guys are explosive players, just obviously smaller. So he came up with an index from like 0 to 100, like a test grade, and the index kind of tells you where you are as a player. So we rolled that index out this year at WestCon camp, and then we did one at Kane later in the summer. So the top 10 guys at the WestCon camp, 6 of them have already gotten offers. The top 10 guys at the Kane camp, 4 of them have gotten offers because they are the top players. So I got concerned because like the top guy at WestCon was a 61, and the top guy at Kane was a 59. So I was talking to Mike because they're analytics people. I'm not. I'm a football coach. So I said to him, I said, listen, the whole scheme of things, if I get a 59 on a biology test, my dad was going to ground me for weeks. So he's like,
whoop your ass.
Right, exactly. That's besides that, whatever was left over. Yeah. But I guess Clowney ranked it like a 91. And then they ranked.
They based it off of that.
The other 2 guys, and they were like 89s and 90s. So what I never took into consideration is those guys came from legit Division I programs.
Yes.
So they went through the lifting, they went through the nutrition program. They had people checking their body count, their body fit, all that stuff to build them up for the NFL. So we were talking about, what kind of player would I be happy with? He said, man, you got a player coming into your camp and he's scoring 60, 62, 64. That's pretty good because realistically that 92 in the NFL on a lower level is like an 82. So you're only like 20 points away from a kid that's potentially a really good player. So it's funny you say that because I just find myself, I feel like a broken record. I want to tape myself because I feel like I say the same thing over and over again. And it's part of the reason why now I'm trying to phase myself out of this business. I mean, I'm working with Charlie. We're working on trying to do something bigger and better using Zybex Sports, maybe working more for the school instead of the college, and getting them viable data than for the kid, because unfortunately the worst position right now to recruit, like I don't even take on quarterbacks and kickers anymore. It's pointless.
It's almost impossible to get at the level that they would expect they could go to. Because quarterbacks can be, and same thing with kickers. They're the two. Everyone wants, if you're a guy that, because of what the great job that Chris Saylor has done, some of those guys with their kicking camps, where they made them national, like huge deals, a few of those guys, and they have thousands and thousands of kids. So many of these kids have wanted to become kickers. And then quarterbacks, obviously, is the easy one where everyone wants to be quarterbacks. There's a million of these kind of things. So what's happened is the general quarterback and the general kicker level is so high. But in order to be at the highest level, you have to be so good. So if you went and watched like a D3 quarterback now, it's not like the 90s where you're like, you're not really you're not. It's going to be hard to get a guy that could really throw it the way you would want to, right? Now those guys can all throw, right? It doesn't matter. Every one of them, unless you're running like an offense where you're running a triple option, but run-based offense. But outside of that, like these guys all can spin it. These guys, so that position has become like very difficult to get recruited where they think they should be at. Whereas an offensive lineman, if you get a guy at 6'4", 6'5" that comes to you, film was pretty decent, and you're like, okay, you know what? Right. Highest level here, lowest level here. You could probably be pretty sure that there's going to be within that range. and you could have that confidence when you have that conversation. A quarterback, you could be watching film on him and be like, this kid's damn good.
Yeah.
But he might just be Division III.
Nothing.
You know what I'm saying? So
no.
because of how hard it is, and because transfer portal wise, shoot. I mean, outside of the top tier guys, I'll go take a guy that throws for 5,000 yards at the FCS level if I'm Charlotte. If I'm Charlotte, my next guy is going to be some guy that threw at Furman for 5,000 yards last year, and he's going to get upgraded, and he's going to be my starter. That's easy. This guy already did it. He just needs a couple of weeks to adjust to a little bit higher level of speed. He's probably going to be fine, right? And there's some
around some better players.
Yeah, you get him around some better play. Exactly. And there's some caps to it, but in general, you see that all over the place. And
it's hard. The quarterback position's hard. I mean, I have a couple of Division III kids, but even the Division III kids are hard now because you got a lot of these Division III programs that are getting drop-down guys.
Right, of course.
They're not
Division I guy, the fourth-string guy at Florida goes down and plays at a Division I, a Division III, becomes Player of the Year. He's still considered a Division I athlete because he was at the Division I school, so he's got the stock to go back up. Whereas the kid that goes to Joe Schmo University thinks if he's Player of the Year, he can go up. No, but you were recruited by Division III schools, so you're not a Division I athlete. It's a big difference.
There's absolutely that is
a great point. It's an absolute point.
It's frustrating on my end, and I'm sure it's frustrating on yours too. And that's why, even for me now, like I probably business-wise could be killing it, like making tons of money, but I kind of go through like a selection process, and I'll watch the film and talk to the parents and see if they're really vested in it, and explain to them, like you said, hey, listen, the best I think you are is a PSAC quarterback. The best I think you are is a Mountain East quarterback. I think at best you could play in the NA10. But like you said, they don't want to hear that. They want to hear you say, what do you mean the NA10?
Absolutely not.
No, you can't play that.
And especially when they're, paying you to do something, right? There's now a level of expectation like, well, what do you mean? Like I gave you this and now you're me on this. And look, the recruiting game, even as it's extremely difficult. Is even more so now as a high school coach. The foot traffic within schools is not anything like it used to be. You used to have to go through the head coach to recruit a kid because that was your communication level. And now, coaches can DM these kids on, or whatever social media it is, where there is no contact with a head coach for some of these guys. And, I just see it on both ends, right? Because obviously working with Dave and kind of what we do, and then a little bit of like, still being in the high school coaching world, looking at and watching just these guys go through this process with no guidance and not ask for it because, their uncle told them they should be playing at Alabama, and their uncle played, 1979 championship team in Podunk, whatever, right? But that's what they're going to go off of. It's just really hard, and I think the less foot traffic within the building, you see like the lower levels, unless you have obviously a big time guy, but it's more now of like trying to get guys to come to camps, whether it be on campus or mega camps or whatever that is. I just always think that, if you really want to recruit a kid and you really want to know what he's all about and you don't even speak to his high school coach, like, come on, man, what are we talking about? Because at the end,
you know how bad it is in terms of, not to cut you off, you know how bad it is in terms of like the knowledge piece is like, I'm sure you guys at some point, like when you got your first 8th grade group or your 9th grade group, because that's the time you meet with them and you go through the whole spiel. You don't do it when they're in 11th grade because it's too late. The best is like when I talk to parents about the eligibility clearinghouse. I can't tell you how many people think I'm talking about the publishers clearinghouse.
Yeah, you're like, that what we're doing. What
I
are you
asked
talking
them to
about?
send me their number. I've gotten driver's license numbers. I've gotten social security numbers. I've gotten phone numbers. Like, are you kidding me? Are you serious? Just go on to the internet.
Shit.
Now, here's the problem. Here's the problem. The problem is if you type in NCAA clearinghouse, unfortunately, like NCSA is involved in that.
Oh,
So,
yeah, NCSA, right.
So if you don't really look, because it'll come up, NCSA and NCAA are very similar. So if you don't look, all of a sudden you click on their link. Now they got your information. Whereas, you should just go. But I have a kid today that's a scholarship kid that said to me, Coach, I got to get that number, right? I go, yeah, dude, like, this is like it, man. How do you not know you got to get the number? Just go on. It's $90. They take you 15 seconds. Like, it's crazy. Like that, just little stuff like that. And that's why for me,
Coach is getting social security numbers, man.
Yeah, it's terrible. Like, that's why for me, like, I love what you guys are doing. I've watched a lot of your podcasts. I know you guys personally. I have a lot of respect for what you do. And I have a lot of respect for people like us that do what we do. What hurts what we do is the people that want to be like us that don't want to put the time in or don't know anything about it. Like, I can tell you right now, one of the best things about there being one portal right now from the 2nd to the 16th is I think this is going to help out high school kids.
Agree.
Now,
absolutely. 100%.
Colleges are going to start coming in. So before, with the first portal and the second portal, the first portal, they were just worried about transfers. Then there was a little break. Then it was back to transfers. Then it was back to high school kids. Now it gives them that window of like 2.5 months to focus. Now they can look at transfers.
Yep.
But they can focus on getting them on visits and so on and so forth. And then you got a 15-day window where you go all in. So I think it's going to help out high school kids a little bit. I may be wrong, but I think that it will.
Yeah, I think it'll help it. It could help it a little bit. The hardest thing about the transfer portal is just the proven commodity thing, because now JUCO doesn't count, right? Diego Pavia, when he challenged that, he won, and that's going to be like what's probably going to happen. You're going to get 5 for 5, and JUCO won't count, which basically means you still have 7. So I don't know what that means. Like, like
that's easy math, bro.
I mean,
like, we can think about it.
Like, I to me, it's just like that's definitely like a pro. It's pro at the highest level of college. It's pro. So, because that's what basically you're going to have when you have 24-year-old kids. I mean, your quarterbacks eventually at college Division I. I would say the majority of your best guys are going to end up being 23, 24-year-olds because they're going to be grown 100%. Men. They're going to be grown men.
I guarantee, Dave.
Yeah, because there's
no doubt.
The difference between 24 years old versus just 21 is a huge deal. So now you're really talking about, you filled out completely, and your knowledge as a person is much, your brain is more formed. You're much smarter at 24 as an athlete than you are at 21.
Oh, yeah.
So whereas before it was like 21 versus 18, well, they're kind of still both, young people. 24 is I had my first job, so like I was working. So it's one of those things that like is change. That will change completely. I mean, it already has a little bit, but that's going to make it hard. Like, how does an 18-year-old, like, how do you go if you're going to get fired in 3 years, 2 years now, I guess, right? You get fired in 2 or 3 years as a Division I coach. How do you go and say, I'm going to take this 18-year-old 4-star versus this other guy who, goes from Georgia State to Georgia or something like that, or the backup at Ohio State comes to me at this, who's now 24, and Pavia proved that. I mean, he's a man. He was really good at New Mexico State. Now it's
only offer.
It's literally a grown man And I think that part has just made it. I think that obviously the NCAA just has their hands in the air from this standpoint.
I just think it's about
They don't
education.
give a shit.
I think it's about education.
Yeah.
I think the more that we can educate kids, is better. And even the Division III thing. Like I played Division III football. It's one of the greatest experiences of my life. I mean, when I played Division III football, our conference was us, Fordham, Hofstra, Stony Brook. It was a Liberty Conference, Pace, Merchant Marine, Post. I mean, it was a great conference. And like I tell kids all the time, like don't big time a Division III guy because I don't know many D3 guys that want to be D3 guys their whole life. Look at some of the guys in the NFL that are D3 guys. Look at some of the guys that to me, the appreciation of a D3 guy that's used to shit. I used to set up my own drills as the head coach or bring out the water or on game day, set up the headsets. Or remember the days when we used to have to run the wires? Like we had to do that stuff. They don't have to do it. Like Division I, you don't do that. There are people doing it. So what I tell kids is, hey, listen,
the expansion of staffs at the Division I level now
I tell kids
is unbelievable.
I tell kids to get in front of really good Division III programs. Like for example, I had a kid last year from Westchester County that wanted Division I. He got a ton of D2 offers. He got some really good. The whole NESCAC offered him. Hopkins, MIT, like really good schools, but that wasn't good enough. He wanted Division I. So if you remember, someone from Bentley got the job at Davidson because the guy at Davidson went to Rice, right? He was the guy.
Yeah, Abel. Yep.
So he went to Rice. So what happened was like within 2 days, like this guy had gotten an offer from Davidson. From Bentley. So a couple whites from Bentley went to Davidson, and sure enough, 3 days later, he gets an offer at Davidson. Now he didn't get any Division I offers prior to that, but because of the relationship he built on the lower level with a coach, that coach made the move. He's a Division I player now. That's lost.
I also think. I think, Coach, too, like one of the – and look, this is coming from, I started my career at Sacred Heart FCS program, right, and then finished at Montclair State. Obviously, we know the history there of kind of what it is. And I'll be very honest, and I've been open about this numerous times. Like, I've played with better players at Montclair State, right? And that's just – you're talking Division III – FCS and I know Sacred Heart now they're CAA, but they were mid-major back then, non-scholarship. Right. And I'll tell you what was really funny was my year at Sacred Heart, we played Iona, right? And then when I transferred, my very next year I was at Montclair State and we played Iona, right? Yes, and we beat them both times, both teams, 2 different levels. And I think there's always something that guys get so, and I have to deal with it with the high school kids, right? They get so enamored with D1, FCS, D2, D3. Like, if there's one thing I can, and I tell guys all the time, it's hard for them, and I get it, right? Because they want to be, Oregon, they want to be Alabama, they want to be all of these big types. Man, go to a school that wants you, right? Because this is a hard business where you're literally splitting hairs and you don't know, like you just said, coaching movement happens. It's right. Like coaches that go from here to there, commit to a school that you like and a staff that wants you to be a part of the process. And if they make a jump, they may take you with them, right? Like you just said, that's part of what can happen now, right?
Well, yeah, but that happened at JMU. I mean, look what Signetti did. He took 13.
Look how many of those guys he took. Yeah, I mean, shit, dude. Like, you know what I mean?
They all started.
It only takes one. It only takes one, Dave. And it's like, look, you see these programs that struggle, or guys that recruit a certain way, or just recruits today that I'm not a D3 player, like blah, blah. They don't understand the level of just playing in college at any level is because. Right. Buddy, you might have been the best player on your team, but now everybody was the best player on their team, dude. Like, you know what I'm saying? And you're going to separate it whether you're playing at Willie P or whether you're playing at Montclair or whether you're playing at Sacred Heart or whether you're playing at UConn or whether you're playing at Rutgers. Like, there are really good players at every.
And the Northeast, we're lucky that we don't have as many Division I programs, but we have a lot more programs that play football. Whereas you go down south,
A,
a lot of Division I programs, and I know because I have another guy that played at UConn way after me. I mean, he's probably played there about 10 years ago. He runs this program in Georgia for defensive linemen, and he's always calling up like, hey, you know, and you watch the film on these kids, and you're like, oh my God, they're so good. But if they're not a Division I player, there's very few places for them to go. So
absolutely,
he's always he's shopping kids up north. He's shopping kids all over the place.
We talk about that with Florida all the time, right, Dave? It's 1A, it's 1A or bust in Florida. Yeah, it's 1A or bust.
Yeah, but
Florida's loaded with NAIA schools. There's a ton of them down there.
Right. Well,
and you look at it like the Midwest is big NAIA, right? Right. Kansas and Nebraska. Yeah.
Division II. I don't know. But that West Virginia league used to be NAIA, but maybe it's Division II now. I can't keep it all straight.
Well, you're even seeing schools like Lackawanna, right? Yeah. Like a premier JUCO make them be, I think they were going Division II, or look, they made the jump to being, you know, something bigger. You're seeing, you know, even a University of New Haven who in 2004 killed their program and bounced it back, and now have gone from a D2 to a 1A. Like schools are making moves, you know? I mean, you were at UConn when they were, you know, FCS, and now they're right. And now they're, you know what I mean? You can just look over the last 20 years.
I was there in the beginning of the transition. My senior year was the first year of the transition.
Well, I see the JCs taking a hit because of the evolution of the prep schools.
Yeah.
Once again, everybody wants to go bigger. So you can freeze your clock. You can play someone your own age. Your clock doesn't start, and you can go somewhere. You're a rent-a-player for the fall. Yeah, you got to pay $75,000, but you go to a JC, your clock starts. You're now into full-time semesters.
Well, that's the other thing. That's the
people don't understand that either, Dave. Right? Like we talk about that too. For the prep route, and then like when your clock starts. That's a different world.
Yeah, so the prep school, because people want to do it now because if you're recruiting transfer guys, it all just pushes everything to be older. Because if you're let's say you're an 18-year-old, you're graduating. Well, now you feel like you can't compete because you got 23-year-olds. So now you want another year. So you're 19 when you enter you enter college, right? Or some of these guys, you know, are almost 20. So it's
reclasses, man. Like
what I'm saying, I prep you get some of these guys that are like 19 years and like 9 months, you know. So it's because they feel the pressure to try and get to get to this level. Now, here's the one thing about the prep school stuff. If a kid is immature physically, I get it. If they're already like a full-blown man and they're doing it, they're not going to go any higher level. It's going to be the same level. You're just risking another year of possibly getting injured or something like that, and maybe
you're just delaying your life. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I had a D1 kid get a D1 offer, and I tell guys, if you get a D1 offer, there's no need to go PG.
Yep.
But he didn't like the school academically. So he threw it back on the table and said, okay, I want better. So now he got better. He ended up at Yale. So I think he went from like
that's a win. That's a slight win.
Yeah, he went from like a Pioneer League to a Yale. But then the second kid, same deal, had a Division I offer, but didn't like it, wanted back in, and then ended up at a D2. And the parents are like, what the hell? I said, listen, you had a D1 offer. I told you not to bail on that. There's no guarantees that you're going to get something better. It's like you're playing with house money. You just won 1,000. You put on Black 7 and Red 7 comes up. It's the same thing.
100% right.
But the big problem with PGs that I've learned that is really, I think, is the culminating factor what's going to push these JCs out is I have kids now. I have a kid that's a choke that just finished his second year. So like now what's happening is they're trying to recruit that kid for his senior year so that he's now there for 2 years. So they want that there for senior year and then the next year. So why would that kid go JC then?
And what's that, like a graduate year?
It's like you're at
redoing your senior year, then grad year. Yeah.
Right. You're at Nutley High School. You decide you want to leave at the end of your junior year because you want to go to the PD school. So you go to the PD. Now you're in the PD school your senior year. You're there.
Right.
And then you get to play another year as a PG.
Right.
So
Hunt School does the same thing, right?
Right. Why would you then go to a JC? You're already paying money to the prep. So there's a lot.
And to be honest, you probably got at a PG. You probably got better facilities. You're probably getting treated better, right? It's not even close. And look, we've had some JC guys, right? Like that last chance use shit is real. Like that is what that world is.
Now you get the what is it? The Catholic leagues. They do the show day where they literally go from school to school to school. They bang out like there's a 6 o'clock practice at St. Joe's. There's a 7 o'clock.
Yes.
The other schools don't have that. The JCs don't have that. I mean, you're getting college coaches on your campus to see you play or practice. I mean, it's insane. So it's just the whole evolution is, and I think people like us are a dying breed. I really do. I mean, I'm serious. Anything we can do together.
Yeah, it's because all of us are having heart attacks and shit and stroking out because we're freaking care too much.
Dying.
You know what I'm saying?
Dying is the wrong word. Sorry. I just mean that we know so much, and I think that like that's why I've said to Derek a number of times. I'd love to do anything you guys are doing. I would do it with you guys in a heartbeat because I struggle with the people out there that flat out suck. I mean,
that's true.
Parents and they're like, I spent $5,000 and my son got nowhere. Well, you just
the parents don't always know and you probably experienced this too, right? You could show them your experience, you could show them all the things you've done, all the people you've worked with, and some other person they're talking to, they have a hard time deciphering what is the right move because they don't know a lot. Is it really like about the process? They don't know anything.
They don't know anything in reality.
Like this person over here and this person over here, and I feel like it becomes commoditized to an extent. Like the back in the day, I had the speed training facilities, and there was a few of the early guys like. Bill was like the first, and then I had one, and Joe DeFranco, and and then what happened was all of a sudden they appeared on every corner, right? And we used to talk about this, like me and Bill, and all of a sudden they appeared on every single corner. Well, parent goes over here. They don't really know because they don't have the experience themselves, so they don't really know the difference between what you're doing or what this person's doing. So it's very, very hard for them to figure out where to put their dollar, right? Mm-hmm. So it's easy for them to get taken, and then they think, oh, everybody's just trying to take from me, and that's not the case. You really have to do your research. You really have to take the time to figure it out, and understand that the other thing that we talked about this in the beginning, you could do all that. They could pay you. They could pay me to help them. It still may not turn out exactly like you wish. Exactly. That's the hard 100%. Thing for them to understand. There's no guarantee. So
zero.
There is a guarantee if you do nothing that you're going to get nothing.
Nothing will happen. Absolutely.
Right. But there is a risk always that you may not get what you're hoping for, and that's why educate. Like I've turned down people before. And they're like, "What?" I'm like,
"Yes,
I watched your film." Like, I
love when you do that, though, Dave. To be honest, because that to me always comes back.
You want me to? I'll be. Here is a list of guys you can go call at Division III. You'll probably have a chance there. But I don't want to take your money for a person that is going to be a definite Division III. Look, there are kids that you work with that fall to Division III. That could happen, but if I know for a fact that you're really not any higher than that, to me, it's like you could probably figure out places on your own just as quickly as I could, and you're in the back of your mind. I know you're hoping for something higher. None of those schools are going to even talk to you. So it's it's just not worth it. And I always feel bad when they tell them because but it's just, and sometimes I've had people that I'm like, you're not a college player. Like maybe some Division III will take you. Great. But in my opinion, I don't think you're a college level player. Maybe you're, I think you're too small or you're not fast enough or whatever,
Right.
or you're not skilled enough. But, but there's somebody that might be willing to help you. And then in that case, you got to go to that person. But I think
and listen, there are guys that will take guys to just take money and tell them everything they want to hear. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the problem with it.
Wrong too. I mean, I'm sure you've experienced. Like, I've watched a guy's film, and I'm like, I think this kid's a really great player, and I could take him. Here's the range. They're always going to fall within the range, but when I'm talking to them, I really think that they could play at a certain level. But I don't make that decision. You know what I mean? So it's no matter who I put it in front of, in the end, that coach is going to make that decision. Parents think that it's a lot of parents, and you obviously you're a college coach, so I'm just preaching to the choir on this. But parents don't realize that a college
got to be the right fit, man. It's got to be the right fit.
This is their full-time job. This is their full-time job. They still have to go through an evaluation process. They're not taking a favor for Dave Schumann because
you always say that,
and I know him. I
love when you say that, Dave. I love when you say that. Like, just because I know a guy, right? Like, coach, don't you know coaches? I know it. Fuck ton. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Because you know someone.
Putting food on my kid's table, like, is gonna, you know what I mean? Feeding my child depends on you coming here and being a high-level student athlete and playing a game at 18. So you better be the cream of the crop, dude. And when when we show up to the meeting and you're wearing pajama pants and mom's like, all over the place, like, yeah, I'm recruiting everything here, dude. Like, not just you. I'm recruiting mom, dad. So I think that's another part of this piece, Dave, that a lot of people don't understand as parents is like, we're recruiting the whole kit and caboodle here. You know what I'm saying? Like, mom, I got to deal with you for the next 4 or 5 years too. So if you're crazy ladies in the stands yelling shit that you have no idea about, like, block for baby boo-boo, like, figure this shit out, dude. Because, like, you're a part of this process too. I mean, coach, I'm sure you've sat in some living rooms and been a whoa boy, like, oh shit. Like, I don't know if this is even the risk. I don't know if this is even worth it.
I give you a great example. I have a kid that worked for me, Kyle McGuff. He ended up interning with Ohio State, and then he ended up getting a GA job with Day, and he worked with him after I left William Patterson. So he did that thing, and now he lives in Ohio, and he works in a gym. Well, I think the guy that owns the gym, they used to work for the D1 camps or the D1.
Yeah, yep.
So now he works for a guy that is a hockey player for Tennessee. He owns this facility. So they do a lot of hockey stuff. So I'm on vacation. He reaches out to me and says, I got a kid I want you to talk to. So the kid came in. He's an 8th grader. He's 6'4", 265. He goes, I'm talking to the mom. And the mom was talking about how she was going to spend $3,000 on a recruiting agency to help her kid. So I said, no. Have her get in touch with me like tomorrow. So I was on vacation. I got on the phone with her. Really nice woman. And, he was like an Under Armour All-American and stuff. She sent me the film. He's 8th grade, but he's a big kid. He was all probably pushing 6'3.5", 285. That means that kid's going to project to be a really big dude. So I said to the mom on the phone, I said, listen, I appreciate that Kyle reached out to me. So what I started doing about a year ago is I started doing like these Zooms. So I do like a 90-minute Zoom where I charge you like X amount of like $250, and I can go through like everything you need to know. And then if you never want to talk to me again, you at least got a lot of information. So I said to my mom, and she knew nothing. And she said, yeah, I got company that reached out. They want $1,000 deposit. And then the total bill, I said, you don't need to pay for your kid. So your kid is going to get somewhere. So I'll do it free. So just give me a half an hour. I gave her half an hour. I gave her a ton of information. Now, I haven't spoke to her since, but that's the point. The point is, I'm not even talking about a 5'1" kid. I'm talking about a kid in 8th grade that's 6'3", 265 pounds.
Right.
That kid at the very least is going to be 6'5", 300.
Correct.
But there's companies out there that see that as an opportunity to take money. So instead, now I could have easily said, "Oh, this is a great opportunity to make $3K." So I charged her $250 instead. And I did a 90-minute Zoom with them, 90 minutes. And since then, I've spoke to the kid 100 times via email, asked me questions about film, because they don't film in 8th grade. I mean, it's a parent filming from the sideline or the stands.
Right.
Which they all do have, by the way, just so you know what I mean.
Right.
Like if they're not already hiring their own film person to film the kid individually.
It's crazy. Like, and I'm, I'm probably in a position in my career now. I'm trying to figure out what's next, and I'm kind of in between jobs and stuff like that. Yeah, I probably, I probably a lot of times would do it for the money. But once again, my reputation in the Northeast, or at least on the East Coast, means a heck of a lot more than me charging someone $3,000. Like, I don't, like in my business, I don't charge anyone until they're at the very least July 1 of the freshman going into sophomore year.
Right.
Like this whole premise that you're going to charge someone prior, there's nothing you can do for a 9th grader in 9th grade that you can't do until that summer. Schools aren't even looking at that. So it's once again, that's my issue, guys. My issue is like people like us, there's a lot less of us. I don't judge anyone I don't know, because it's not right. I don't want them to judge me if they don't know me. But I think I've been doing this long enough to know college football, high school football, evaluation, and just even going to camps. Like I was doing camps and not charging a lot, and then I see a guy down the block charging $550 for his camp, and he's got 500 kids, and my camp is 89, and I got 30 kids, and I'm like, what the heck am I doing wrong? I got 30 kids for 89. He's charging $550. He's got 500. I can't figure that out, and I guess I never will.
That's it is well, the marketing behind that 550 camp is at a different level. That's what it comes right down to. It's and there's a lot more flash. That's the other part that has become, like when I was running 100 events around the country, showcases, and I think originally we charged like $60, and then we were up to like maybe at the highest end, we're up to like $79 or $89, something in that range. And when the market shifted, and we were having like 20,000 kids come through at one point, but when the market shifted, and some of those camps that were charging like at one time, they were charging like 800, some of them 700, and they were getting the same numbers. And people were like, well, why aren't you doing this at your camp and this at your camp? And I'm like, well, we're focused on the recruiting aspect for $89. They're charging $700. Like, you're doing the same thing at this camp, but you're paying 7 times as much, so you should get a swag bag and all these other things, because you're paying for that swag bag.
You're paying for that.
Paying for the swag bag and the arm and the gloves,
all the bells and whistles, Dave. The bells and whistles.
For that. But it's that part of the recruiting thing was was crazy. And then what happened, I always thought what the craziest part about all of that was, for a long time, those recruiting groups that do the 5 stars, like 24/7, now On3 and Rivals, for a long time, they refused to sell out, right? Meaning they would not like sponsor camps, and they sponsored the Nike and they sponsored ours. But when NCSA got involved, NCSA had and I know the original owner of NCSA, because they were a sponsor of us for years, back in the day. But when NCSA really went hard and got bought out, they basically, now they're with IMG. The NCSA is part of IMG, so it's a whole different level. But when NCSA started doing all their stuff where they were going to get kids recruited, quote unquote, and they showed up everywhere, that began to get, and they basically bought their way into Rivals and 24/7.
Yes.
And when they did that, that shifted. And listen, those guys built a great business. God bless them, But what, for me, what shifted with NCSA and when my relationship started to go, I was coaching at Powell Park, and a kid who had no chance of playing in college was harassing me 24/7 because NCSA was like, you could play in college. And I'm like, listen, you're a great kid. You're a 5'9" defensive end. Like, you've done a great job for us. We have a really good team. They went to the state championship. You were a defensive end on that team, but you're not a college player. You know what I mean? Like, go to college, but you're not going to go to college as a football player. And they were telling him that he could. And obviously, I'm sure he paid them or whatever. And, I reached out because they were actually partners with us. I reached out. I'm like, you're reaching out to one of the kids I coach who is not a college player. There's no college coach recruiting him. He's not a college player. And your sales guy is telling him that he can play in college and he's paying this money and all this stuff. And this kid is having a disconnect with me.
Right.
Who knows exactly what's going on?
Your fault.
Right. So and the kid was a great kid, by the way. It was a great kid, one of my favorite kids.
That's usually how it works.
There was a time that he was really upset with me, and then and it had nothing to do with anything. Eventually he went to a Division III where he lasted 6 months and realized he couldn't play.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's what happened. And we could have saved him time and effort. He could have chose a college that he belonged at right from the get-go for academics purposes because he was a smart kid, right? And that part was where I was like, wow. So once they bought their way into, at the time, I don't even know if they're involved with them anymore, but at the time they were involved with Rivals and 24/7, they bought their way in there. That changed not only what kids got, not the highest end, but as far as like kids were getting put on their sites that didn't belong on there, because they were paid customer and NCSA asked them to put them on there, which watered down the marketplace where all of a sudden kids thought that they should be on there that were not on there because they knew of someone who wasn't that good that was on Rivals' site.
Was on it.
Right. And
this kid's not that good. I'm just as good. I'm just as not good as that kid.
Now you're the crazy person. Now you look like you're the person that's crazy.
Right.
And when you're telling them that, like, in order to be a ranked Rivals guy, you really have to be like a really good player. But no, it turned out like there were some people that bought their way into the situation. And that changed that part of it a lot. Now that NCSA has been bought out by IMG, they've rolled it out nationally and in every single sport. It's everywhere, and it's obviously known as a business. People now are a lot more educated on NCSA, and I always tell people, hey, you know what? If you're a volleyball player, you know what? Recruiting might be very difficult to get. It's the scholarships aren't the same as they are in football. Maybe NCSA can help you. If you're in football, you need someone that understands the navigation specific to football, which is going to be very, very different than what you would navigate if you're, for the most part, a non-scholarship athlete in an Olympic sport. You know what I mean? And that's a different thing. So,
would you believe I interviewed for a job at NCSA?
I'm sure.
Would you believe that before I went into business on my own, I had found out from Tom Masella at Wagner, because that's what Tom did in between. He worked with NCSA.
Right.
He's like, yeah, you'd be great for them. And I interviewed with a couple people, and I got to like the final step, and then, they never got back to me. And I'm like, how could I was blown away. Like, how could I not be qualified to work for you guys? I just got done being a college head coach for 10 years.
Yeah,
Like, that's why I went off on my own, Dave, because
I got people jobs at NCSA.
I felt insulted, actually, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so like I said, like we were partners at the highest level of NCSA. Like I'm friends with the original owner of NCSA when I would say it was really still decent. You know, they had Tom Lemming involved with them, but it shifted when he listen. I would have done the same thing if I were him. He sold his company to a private equity firm. He should. It was a chance for him to cash out, right? And what he had built a nice business. And at the time we were partners with them, they did a great job. It just shifted. Like I remember, like all of a sudden they were telling me I had to do certain things, and I'm like, nah, that's not going to be me. Like I know you guys are giving me good money, but that's not going to be me personally. But it's interesting because I like even after that I got people jobs at NCSA because they were probably one of the few recruiting services that has probably the only recruiting service in the country that has the capital to pay full-time employees on a large scale. But sometimes they have people that are really just salespeople, not actually people who are knowledgeable in the recruiting process, posing as salespeople. Yeah, and I know the ins and outs of the NCAA because I could tell you I was I was the first football partner that they had on a large scale, and I've been in their offices many times, and some of their executives have climbed. I don't want to say names, but have climbed to the highest of highest ranks within football, and some of the things that they've had to do it. I think compromise a lot of things. So
it's neither here nor there because at the end of the day, I've had parents tell me, "Well, your camp's $79 and theirs is $379." So what you're saying to me is that's a better camp because it's $379. Are you kidding me? The best is then I'll say to them, okay, so I'm going to ask you 3 questions and you give me the 3 answers. For $379, did they give you a swag bag or a T-shirt? Oh, no, they didn't give us a T-shirt. Come and think of it, I didn't even think about a T-shirt. Okay, great. Did they do testing numbers? Yeah, they tested us, but they never sent us the numbers. Oh, really? Honestly. And then, okay, how about the big piece? The college coaches. They had 17 coaches on the website.
Right.
Oh, we only saw 2 schools. Oh, sorry. So you paid $379 for that, and you could have come to my camp. You got verified digital numbers from real coaches, head coaches, assistant coaches. Seriously? You're saying that's better? You're saying a Rolls Royce is better than a Buick?
Well, I'll tell you something. I think Derek's here. We told the story. When I first left corporate and then started coaching high school, I sat at where I played at when I was in high school, Saddlebrook. Was my first assistant coaching job, and I decided I was going to run a speed camp for all the kids, for free.
Right.
And because I was a track athlete, very high level, and I started coaching my father there, and I was like, I'll run, for any app, and I made it for free. How many kids signed up? You know how many? 0. So next year comes around, and I'm like, you know what? I was already kind of starting to. I'm like, I'll charge. I don't remember what I charged. Maybe it was like $99 or something. I'll run a speed camp and I'll charge $99. I had 150 kids sign up. So that tells you, by the way, it would have been the same speed camp, whether it was the one the year before, it was the same exact thing. But because I put a value to it, and this is Saddlebrook, which is middle class. It's not, you're not talking about, Franklin Lakes where everybody's wealthy and that's what they expect, right?
I knew you were Lakes. I knew you were going to say Franklin Lakes.
yeah. Of course. Well, what else is there to say? But yeah, Saddlebrook.
Listen, you could make the shift out here. I thought you could have said Rumson.
Well, yeah, exactly, right. But that is part of it. There is like a psychological.
Right. I get what I'm
saying. That parents are cultured that if it's for free, it's
no good.
then it's no good. You know, where we grew up in an era that people did stuff for guys for free because they wanted
really like it mattered. Yeah.
And listen, and I can tell you this because I'm a volunteer coach because I coach my son's team.
Right.
You know, and people have more respect for me because I've been a coach in high school. But for the most part, you know, when it comes right down to it, like you're a volunteer, so you're not a paid coach. So if something ever did go wrong, you're going to be treated as such because you're unpaid, right? So that's the interesting thing, and so it goes to your point. There is some sort of psychology where, like, when they're comparing these things, it doesn't always make sense.
No,
but you're right that, like, some of them will value the fact that they're paying more than something that they're getting maybe more from that they're paying less. And you're right, it's the Rolls Royce thing. It's like, is a Rolls Royce a better car than?
I mean, we were bringing in the same people that work at the NFL Combine. They were setting the same setup.
Yeah, Mike Weinstein.
Mike. Same one that there's at the NFL Combine. And we were charging $150 less than the ones that were just doing handheld times.
Yep.
Some of them didn't even do handheld times. It was like, okay, that kid looks like he's 5'1". That kid, we really like that kid. He's a 4'6". Yeah. That kid's going to be a 5-star, so we're going to make him a 4'4". We're going to make him a 4'4", like random numbers and shit. So, you know, I just, for the life of me, I struggle with that. But once again,
it's the same reason why they go to, like, if they could go to, I think this is the same exact rationale. If I could go to, let's say William Patterson held their prospect day, right?
Right.
And Rutgers held a prospect day. But they're not a Rutgers level recruit, but they'll all go to the Rutgers camp, okay, with no shot of being looked at because they think because it's Rutgers, that's higher prestige than, let's say, William Patterson within the football space, and they'll go there and not get looked at. You know what I mean? So that's the other thing that, like, listen, the Division I colleges, they know that, okay, and they do it anyway. So a lot.
I did a lineman camp with Chris Snee.
Yeah, great guy
at William Patterson.
Yep.
And we did it, and we figured we'd get 300 kids. And we did that camp at William Patterson, got like 35 kids. Well, they did, a company like that did a camp with a pro at Giant Stadium, but the pro wasn't as good as Chris. Like Chris is a great guy.
Great guy.
Great guy. Was the other guy couldn't even touch Chris's shoes. But they did it at the stadium. They got over 500 kids, and they charged $300.
That works.
Yeah,
that's one of the things I've learned in business. That's what I would say. That's one of the things that I did learn, which is the hardest thing. Like, for coaches and people who are coaches, it's the hardest thing because you coach because you want to get the kids better, right? That's where your heart is in it. And that's one of the things that's changed across coaching, by the way, even at the Division I level. Those guys are entrepreneurs themselves now. So, you know, it's become a business, and the things that, like, I always feel like it happens to me a lot in the back of my head. You know, I'm like, I feel guilty for charging X amount of dollars. You know what I mean? But if you don't do it, someone else who's not as good as you will.
He's gonna.
And they're going to get that client, and then you're going to be like, wait a minute, you know what I mean? Like, I know more than this person. I can help you more. And that's one of the strange things. And like, there's a balance of, like, what can you charge versus what you can't charge, like how much, what it could be. But there is a lot to that. And I think that it pervades, it's come all the way from the NFL down, right? Like, you go to MetLife Stadium, right? And there's regular seats, but then you could get the VIP experience, right? That's a totally different realm. Like, then you could get above the VIP experience when you're down on the floor level and you're getting all the food served to you as an elite, like, you know, customer of MetLife Stadium, right? So there's these tiers that have been brought into it, and now it's obviously in college, right? Especially at Division I level. It's in college. It's in recruiting. It's in how you hire your brand of college coaches. I mean, how many times do these guys make mistakes over and over again as head coach? Because are they hiring the best guy, or are they hiring the brand of that guy? You know, like
hiring who that guy poses.
I never thought Brian Kelly. I think Brian Kelly's a great football coach. Okay. I don't know about him as a person. I've heard a lot. I know a lot of people that know him that, you know, there's a lot of mixed reviews from that standpoint. I don't know him at all. But I never thought – I thought Notre Dame was a good fit for him. I never thought he would be a fit at LSU. But the brand of Brian Kelly's success at Notre Dame got him hired at LSU, right? And to me, like that's part of a lot of what's going on, even in college football. Some of these guys hire the right guy. Some of them hire a guy that they think is the brand that they
think is the right guy.
They think is the right guy, and it doesn't work out. And there's so much money in college football at the highest level. Obviously not at the division, but at the highest level, that they'll burn $80 million.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't care.
They'll burn. Yeah. Jerry, we're the dumb ones, I guess. We're the dumb ones. You know what I'm saying? Like but they'll burn $80 million. You know, and I say,
who's the next guy?
Those guys who have been willing to do what they've done to get to the top, and obviously they're all, you know, to become a head coach at the Division I level, you have to be a great coach. It's just because you lose doesn't mean you're not a great coach. Right. Just you may not be the right fit at that place. But those guys are all great coaches. But I think they all look at it now when they get to the top level. Not a huge buyout. I'm going to roll the dice. If I succeed, if I don't,
I'm good.
I got $50 million. I don't got to work if I don't want to the rest of my life. If I do want to, obviously most of them are lifelong coaches. They'll figure out a way to get back into it. But they don't have to worry about one hit. You don't got to worry about money for the rest of your life.
Right.
One hit, dude. One big time coaching job, succeed or fail.
Best job in the world. Fired high level football coach.
It's better than the CEO of a company because
you really don't have to do shit.
Well, now it's insane the amount of money that they're throwing around. I mean, it's absolutely insane.
It's unbelievable. And I heard somebody say on, I can't remember who it was. I was watching some show and or maybe it was like on a social media, and they're like, you know, do you think that there's going to be like those salaries have got to come down? They're spending. I'm like, no. I'm like, they're going to continue to rise because there's always going to be owners that want to take the risk of being the very, very best. The allure of the opportunity to be number one is too great for highly, highly successful individuals, meaning like billionaires, and their allure to try and put money in a spot to get them to be number one, even if they blow it, which half the time they are. Even if they blow it, it's worth it to them to try and get there, because that's if you're already a billionaire, like there's not that many more things for you to do. Like,
and then you have the guys that are starting in smaller schools. Look at what Signetti did. He was at JMU. Look at Keeler. Keeler was at Rome. He bounced around. That was at Temple. So you look at those successes of those guys. Flood started and he bounced around. Yep. So then you have that success piece. And so you have a lot more younger guys that feel like, well, I'm at Ithaca, man. I got a chance. I can go to the next place and then the next place. And
no doubt.
And then I have success.
But coach, with that, I think to circle back to bring this thing all together, now you look at guys that are only looking at moving to the next level, and they're not worried about where their feet are, and they're not doing the best job that they possibly can, and they're not soaking in all of that stuff, but yet they continue to go to the next level, get jobs, and then it's, you know, hey, sink or swim now, right? Because at some point you're going to be put on the spot, and you're have to actually coach, right? Like you can only fake it for so long, right? And just, I'm this, I'm that. I'm like, you want to be what you really want to be. You're going to have to get like, you know, the rubber's going to meet the road.
what's that old saying? You're only as good as the next job as the job you're in, or something like that. Like, but like I never coached with the thought that I was going to work somewhere else. I focused on the job I was in, gave it 100%, and if something
best
happened,
you can at where you're at. Correct.
Whereas now they get in, and while they got one foot in, and the other foot is thinking,
where am I going?
Exactly.
No, there's no doubt, and I think that's I think they're told that's the way to go. I mean,
Dave, I think that's a great point. I think that they are, and we've had this conversation, and Coach Flo, we've talked about how, there's always people there to worry about players and this, but like, who coaches coaches? You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not talking like X's and O's, but like approach, social like the behavior aspect, mental side of this whole thing. Like, financially, like, what do you do with your money? How do you do? Who coaches coaches on that stuff? There's no, you know what I mean? It's all you learn what you go.
There's less mentorship. You're right. Like there's,
you know what I mean? Like there's nobody to turn to be like, hey, how do I handle?
And I don't know that everybody wants to be mentored as much anymore because I had
none of these guys want to be told what to do, Dave. None of these younger assistants want to be told that.
With another guy that owns a business completely unrelated industry, like he owns a pizza business and stuff like that. And we were in a discussion. We had this discussion about the fact that, like, if you're a young person, you go on social media, you see like young influencers or young who are really successful, making a lot of money. Right. And first thought is that guy's 25, making a lot of money, 28, making a lot of money. I should be him or her, and I've got to do whatever that person's done to do it. Instead of your own journey, you're trying to emulate other people's journeys. And that's what a lot of them, they try to emulate. The younger people try to emulate another person's journey. And you do want to look at someone that's successful and say, okay, that's a roadmap, but your journey is always going to be different than somebody else's. And I think that's like, they all want to kind of like, I should do this. And then when they go do it and it doesn't go the way they planned, they don't realize that most people, in order to be successful, there's a long road to it. So they give up, right? So that's why I think a lot of guys in college coaching, they're told, hey man, in order to get to this level, you gotta be in a different place every year for the next 5 years, and then after that, you can evaluate where you're at and then decide where you go. But for your next 5 years, if you're at Rutgers this year, then you should be at Susquehanna next year. You should be at, you got to be at 5 different places in 5 years in order to have a chance to rise. And I think other young coaches or maybe like 30-plus-year-old guys are telling 25-year-old guys, that's how I did it. You got to do it that way. If you don't do it that way, and I think the people that are most affected are the players. Like when Tom Brady says the players are not like quarterbacks are not as good as they
developed or whatever. Yeah.
How could they? How can they get developed if you have a new coach every single year? It's impossible because they don't know you that well. Right. You develop people over time, and yes, maybe you're not going to be with someone for 5 years, but several years of development, you can learn about that person and you can develop them over time. You can get more knowledge into them and you can get more skill sets into them. But if you have a new guy every 6 months, like you're basically stuck at ground zero.
You just develop a relationship, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like those relationships with my coaches are some of the things that have literally formed who I am as a person, whether it be middle school coaches, high school coaches. And look, Dave, I've referenced this a ton before about, I was fortunate in that I was coached by really high level coaches when it came to the sport, and like men, like they coached the full person. Right. And I played for some of the best. But those relationships are some of the things that literally formed who I am. How do you develop that with somebody who's there for spring ball and then gone? I don't see how you could ever make a connection to want to play or do the things that football requires, because that shit's hard, man. And if that guy pushing you, like, he's pushing you for a reason, but if you don't have something with that guy, like, you're just not going to get to that level that's needed to be a really good player and be successful. I don't know how you could do it.
That's why trainers have become this big thing, because
dude, strength and conditioning guys that spend all of that time,
stability. They're looking
all of that time with them too, right, Dave?
Right.
Like, they're with those guys.
Well, it's the one stability person they have, because they don't have stability anymore in position coaches, or it very rarely. I mean, there might be instances they do, but very rarely do they have that. Listen, when I was in college, I mean, in my 5 years, I had 3 different position coaches, right? So that was when people
2 head coaches, right?
I had 2 head coaches, and my head coach was 5. The guy who recruited me, Tom Jackson, just died this past year. He was 5. Actually, I think he's the second winningest coach at UConn. It wasn't that he didn't win; he didn't win enough.
Right.
And UConn was, by the time I was a senior, they were going to Division I the next year, and 2 years later. But they had the first class was the freshman when I was a senior, and they needed a guy like Skip Holtz to be able to take them to that next realm. So they didn't think Tom Jackson could do that. They thought Skip Holtz could do that, right? Mm-hmm. And it turned out Skip ended up leaving and going to South Carolina, and Randy Edsel ended up being the guy that did it. But it's compared to now, that's like child's play. I mean, that's child's play.
But to your point, your original point, like who's supposed to do this? So like my coaching career would have changed if I had become a GA out of college.
Right.
Instead of staying where I was, my career path would have changed, but I wasn't around guys that could educate me on that piece. So like, for example, I had a kid that was a student worker that worked for me at William Patterson, told me one day, came in my office, said, "Hey, now this is same as a player." Say, "Coach, now I want to be a student worker." I said, "Okay, what's your specialty?" He goes, "I'm a video student. I'd love to do video." I said, "Great. You can do all the videos." So he filmed all the end zone shots of all the games. And slowly but surely, by the time he got done with me, we made him like our video coordinator. So he was on all the NJAC calls, and he did all that stuff. I let him hire the staff. He ended up hiring 3 kids. They were all on work study. So I was big on because I didn't have that. So to your point,
right. You didn't have any of that on staff, right? At William Patterson, like that wasn't a part of the kid.
Right. No, my point, Derek, is I didn't have that cultivation coming out of college. So otherwise, I would have made the jump, but I didn't make the jump. So I was fortunate. I was fortunate to have between 8 to 10 student workers a year at William Patterson. That was my goal.
Yeah.
And I had different kids. I had a DFO. I had someone doing strength and conditioning, someone doing nutrition.
Right.
Like they all had different departments. Goals. So this kid in particular, a great example is Dave Maltese at the time, alum of William Patterson, was with the Giants. There was an internship program. Anthony signed up for it. I never forget, spring break, he went and interviewed for the job. He was on his way back to the campus. I was in the office. Dave calls me on the phone and goes, "So listen, we got to hire one candidate. I got 500 applicants. He's the first one we hired. We want to give him the job. He's that good." Because Dave knew that we were cultivating kids for the next step, because that's our job.
That is
so he came back. We sat in my office, and he was concerned. He had a job in pharmaceuticals in Denver that he could go to, or he could live at home, go to grad school, and volunteer with the Giants. So I said, "Listen, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but if I was given this guidance when I was your situation, I'd go with the Giants then."
Yeah, buddy.
You could still live at home. Your mom and dad let you do that. You go to school. You at least say, I said, if you do half of the job you do here for Dave, he's going to hire you. So he went. He killed it. I remember Dave calling me after a couple of weeks saying, "This kid's amazing." We put him in charge of all the interns. And he did such a great job. So unfortunately, when his internship was over, there were no jobs. So he was frustrated. I got him in touch with Coach Priori at Stony Brook, because he was different guy was there than the guy that's there now.
Yep.
And he hired him as his video guy right on the spot. Used Dave's recommendation, mine, hired him on the spot. He's there for 2 months, Dave. I get a call from Dave Maltese saying, listen, we got an opening. He goes, we got a guy that just went to NFL Films. We have a job open. I said, I'm in. Can I apply for the job? I said, I don't understand my video. Can I apply? You call me because you want me to get the job? He's like, no, I'm asking about Anthony. I go, I know he's at Stony Brook. I said, I'm sure he would love the opportunity. So he called him that night. Anthony calls me and says, Coach, I'm working for the Giants now. Like, there's no interview process. He just hired him on the spot.
Right.
But the moral of the story is, you know, in the NFL system, it's less years for a pension. So I think it's 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, whatever it is. He spends X amount of time in the NFL. He's in his late 20s and he leaves the NFL. Goes to Rutgers to work for the state of New Jersey, and Greg worked for him for a number of years. And now has since left, and now he works for Exos, which is the company that everyone deals with.
Right.
Moral of the story is he's retired from the NFL on a full pension. He's not even 30 years old. He worked for a state institution. Now he works for the company that deals with it, all because he took a chance, but because it goes back to your point, it goes back to us doing our job to guide him.
Guide him.
And I got it. And that's, to me, those are the best success stories. Yeah, I would love to have beaten Jerry in terms of wins. Like, if there was an opportunity to beat anybody, Jerry Gallagher was the name, and I could have, except for the 0-10 season I had in my last year. But at the end of the day, the thing that I rally around is, like, I got a kid that's at the Dolphins now. He's in his 18th year as equipment. He was my equipment guy. He's in the Dolphins 18 years. He was a William Patterson.
Give me that job. Give me that job all day.
Like that's the thing. Like, Rob Schultz was our equipment guy. He bounced around. All these guys that we helped kind of get to the next level, but it goes back to your original point. It's our job to help. And I didn't get that guidance when I was in high school and college. And that's why I did what I did, because I thought that's what the right thing to do was.
No doubt. The mentorship and the helping them along and guidance in their in what they're going to do is the key. And I think that part's big for the younger guys. Some of them don't want it. The ones that do, you know, it definitely will help them.
Lou Porciazzo, who played for me, great example. Lou Porciazzo played for me my first year in 2008, a 5'7", 200-pound center from Colonia. Like, you're talking about a guy that's a great kid, was a movement science kid, was a captain. I made him a captain, never played, but just a great kid to have on the roster. Well, he goes and bounces around U.S. Olympic Committee, Colorado State. Now he's at Michigan. He's been at Michigan for X amount of years. He doesn't work in football. He's like an associate director for performance. I mean, he was up for a job at Northwestern recently. They were going to pay him double. Michigan didn't want to leave. They paid him double. So he's like one of the top 5 strength coaches in the country, and he got a degree from William Patterson. All because of a conversation. I'm going to give you some advice. This is what I think you should do.
Absolutely.
And that's to me, that's our legacy.
That is.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's what we do for our kids.
Dave, you just saw it, Dave, when you went back, you know, to Palisades Park for your, you know, into the Hall of Fame, and what some of those kids are doing, you know, based off of some of those, you know, teams that you had, you know what I mean? Like the emails you get 5 years after you coached a kid, like, you know, hey coach, I just graduated, I'm getting married, would you come to my wedding? Like, you see the success stories and what you put into it. That's what keeps me in it, you know, because there are some days when it is tough and you're trying to go through it, and you're just saying, dude, like, and you try and tell them too, though, right? As a high school kid, you know, their whole life is centered around this sport right now. And you try and get them to see the big picture. Like, man, just understand, like, this is a blip on the radar of your life, right? Like, I know it feels like this is everything right now, but it's not. And I know you hate me right now for making you tuck in your shirt or for, you know, pushing you to this level or whatever little shit it is. But at the end of the day, man, like, I'm telling you, you're going to thank me, right? Because some of the best coaches I had were guys when I was playing that I couldn't, you know, you couldn't stand them because they pushed you to a level of discomfort that really, like, formed and shaped who you were. And that's like, so this is a calling. Coaching is a calling. I don't think you can force yourself into it. Like you're just it's just there. So Coach, we've taken up way too much of your time, but I appreciate it. I know Dave does, man. Like I really appreciate it. I have nothing but the utmost respect for you from every facet in terms of when I played, as a coach and a player, you've always been there as a mentor for me in any way, shape, or form, always asking, answering questions or for whatever road or whatever crazy shit I brought to you. But I appreciate you taking the time, Coach.
Yeah, no, this is great. Now I get the whole D&D concept. Like you guys, like you should be D squared is what you guys should do, man. Let's definitely stay in touch. And if I can help you guys any way possible with anything and we can, do something together, I'd love to. But this has been great. I'm honored. Honestly.
No doubt.
Thanks,
definitely.
Coach.
All right, Coach. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too, guys. Take care, all right?
All right.
Take care, buddy. Thank you, Coach.
Yep.
That was phenomenal, dude. That was really, really good stuff. I mean, I haven't talked to Coach Flora in a long time.
I've been in touch. You know what I mean?
I know you were in touch. Well, I know when he was at William Patterson, obviously, that was
of course
coaching.
And he always listened, and even just from like that program itself, right? Like Jerry Gallagher, Frank Glazier, I know it. I've known it for the longest time because my father is an alum. But
right, that's right. Yeah.
You're talking about like he graduated, never graduated, but he played there in like the early '80s, but like even he would say like, because we look at it and we're like, man, it's like in Wayne, it's in northern New Jersey, like there's a shit ton of Division III football players that are pretty good that should be able to go there and win games. But they've just never really like fully invested in football, like being like a staple of the school itself. And that's what I think ultimately hurts them. Because at the end of the day, they're always going to be, behind a Rowan, behind a Montclair State. Like kids are going to choose those two schools over Willie all day, every day. And with Kane in there, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just kind of one of those things. And you always say it best too, like, kids that live close there don't want to go there because that's not going away to school, Like it's kind of like Monmouth in the short conference. I think that's like, kind of like that too. Like guys don't want to go to Monmouth, like because it's their backyard, even though there's really good players that could play there.
No,
he's always been a really good coach, man. And he's a line guy. And listen, you look at some of the guys that have been on his staff. I mean, they're doing things, right? I mean, there's a lot of assistants that he's had that have started with him and have really gone, and done some bigger things. So I just always have had the utmost respect for him. It's kind of funny. He's kind of in the same gig as we are doing the same.
Yeah.
Recruiting. And he's like, this is a disaster. He's like, this shit's crazy. He's like, it's terrible. Because guys don't understand from that perspective, dude. Like, coach, they don't give a shit that you were a head coach at Willie P for 10 years. That's the parents don't give a shit.
The hardest part about young people to me is like in the end, the young people more than ever, as the years have gone on, it continues to evolve more and more that the young people could care more and more less about what you did unless it was something that affected them directly right now. And that's
nobody gives it. These kids don't give a shit.
I
and my head coach, I love it.
Belichick, dude. Nobody cares about Belichick.
He's a bum, bro. To them, he's a bum. Like, who's this guy? He's got a hot girlfriend.
They know what's hot now. They don't know what was hot 5 years ago.
That's this clickbait. What's the word I'm looking for? That's this clickbait society that we're living in. Everything is like 10-second Tom, right? Like look, correct. We were talking about like James Franklin getting fired was the biggest thing since sliced bread. Then all of a sudden, Brian gets fired. Nobody's talking about James Franklin. Like it's literally that fast.
Guy got fired.
Like, nobody gives a shit because why? The LSU guy got fired. Like the next day.
So the Florida guy got fired.
And that's to me my number one job, by the way, that's open. I'm taking Florida over LSU all day. Sorry.
LSU, if you're a good coach, you will win a national championship.
Ed Orgeron won a national championship and got fired.
But you probably will get fired at some point.
Absolutely.
And you will have a tremendous rise and possibly a tremendous fall at LSU because Louisiana is the coolest place.
Well, you've talked about Louisiana a lot, and
it's one of my favorite places.
But to me, right, like, is the talent within the state itself, right? Like, okay, obviously, if we let's look at the three big jobs real quick, right? LSU, Florida, Penn State, right? Of the three, are we in agreement that the most in-state talent is Florida?
Yes, correct.
Now, Louisiana or Pennsylvania, which one has more in-state talent?
I would say Louisiana has more.
Really?
But here's what I would say. So you're correct that Florida has more in-state talent. The state that the talent stays home the most by far is Louisiana.
I was going to say.
So by far, like if you look at the roster, probably of LSU, you probably.
I bet you it's all. Now, is it because talent, or is it like I'm just going to go to LSU because I don't want to go?
Every kid grows up wanting to go to LSU.
That's just.
I had this exact discussion on the Husky podcast. So the guy who was the voice of the Huskies for many years, he's on with us, and we were talking about the Brian Kelly job and Brian Kelly firing, and I said, I happen to have it's not that I lived there or anything, but I've been in Louisiana so many times, like so many, like dozen plus times.
Yeah, you've told some stories about Louisiana.
I actually know an unusually large number of people in Louisiana for a person that lives where I live, which is New Jersey. So, I have friends.
That's not really a state that people are flying. People aren't going to Louisiana to be like, hey. And
I've been to places in Louisiana that people do not know about. So, so what's everyone's been to New Orleans, but I've been to Baton Rouge. I've been to Lutcher. I've been to,
what is Shreveport?
I've been to Shreveport. Let me describe Shreveport to you. You pull into downtown, okay? You come in downtown Shreveport. There's not that many buildings, okay? Next, across the street from the 2 or 3 massive hotels they have down there, like the really beautiful hotels, is Hustler nightclub, literally across the street. So, and then if you go across another mile or two, maybe it might be 3 or 4 miles. You go across this river, and there's the casinos in Shreveport on the river, which is the town next to Shreveport. It's a city though, and there's these couple of casinos, which are, by the way, a ton of fun. And it makes no sense, okay? 0 cents, but you're just like, this is so much fun. It's so Louisiana. Like, I can't describe it. There's a...
Brian Kelly's a Northeast guy, right? Like, where's Brian Kelly? He was born and raised where?
I described Louisiana as this. When we used to run an event at Dutchtown, which was outside of Baton Rouge. There was a great coach there, Benny Saia. And Benny's staff was almost all LSU graduates.
It's in Massachusetts.
Landon Collins was at that camp, okay? So, who played for the Giants. So his staff, we get done with our camp, and these guys played at it. The one guy was like 6'7" offensive lineman, was a high school coach. And they're like, hey, meet us here for food. So we go to this place. It was like Louisiana Cajun food and like crawfish and like food and balls and stuff. Ate that, great time. And he's like, okay, go home, get showered up, meet us here at like in an hour. Go get showered up, meet us here. And when we drive, we go all hop in the car, and they're all in trucks and stuff, and we have our rental car, and we hop in this car, and we're following them, and we're like, where the hell are we going? We're already in Dutchtown,
Right.
which is off of. It's not in Baton Rouge. That's like a suburban, like kind of, very powerful football program, but like suburban of Baton Rouge. We're already off the beaten path to begin with. So now we drive 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Okay. And we come up on this barn, huge barn, and there's cars all around it. They're like, we're here. I'm like, we're here? So we all go in, and it's a nightclub. It was a nightclub, a barn that was a nightclub. They had a bouncer, they had a club, it was a bar, and it was a phenomenal time. I mean, phenomenal. Like, you thought time did not exist, right? And then we were like, I don't know how to get home from here.
Right.
Okay. They're like, you can follow me until I have to pull off to my house, which was halfway. But like, just go straight, and all of a sudden you'll see lights, and you'll know where you are from there.
You're like, okay.
But I mean, like, there were no lights, when we drove through. Like, nothing. It was dark. Like, I'm not from Louisiana. Like, the guys who were with us weren't from Louisiana. But the guys from so. We had we had a fabulous time. It was a great. I have several of these Louisiana stories. That's just one of them. That's just one of probably 20. Okay.
Wow.
And yes, and every time was different. Every time was fun. Every time you were like, what am I getting myself into? Kinda. You don't really know.
Right. You're kind of just like going through the motions, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait, what?
Another time we were in Baton Rouge. We went with a guy who now used to coach at my Louisville. I think he was at Florida. I can't remember exactly. He's at a Division I school. Guy was an OC at became a head coach at a JUCO, but at the time he was an assistant OC at a high school. And him and his wife took us all out, and we get in a car. We go under this underpass. Baton Rouge is like a big bridge between Baton Rouge, like going into Baton Rouge. So we go under the bridge, and we're just driving. And it looks like we're going to like this industrial. I'm like, yo, where are we going? So we drive 30 minutes to this like industrial thing and pull off to the right from this like a big industrial like factory thing. Okay. And I'm like, I don't even know. And there's bar there. And we're at this bar. And it's packed with people.
Of course it is.
Like, our video guy is there. He's God rest his soul. He passed away. Unfortunately, he committed suicide. But he was our video guy time. He was a lot of fun. He was our video guy because we used to travel with video guys. And
of course,
we're having a great time. Somehow someone doesn't like what was going on with him. Somebody gets in an argument with him. Okay. And now we're like, we have guys from all over. We're not just all Northerners, but no one was from Louisiana, other than the people who took us there. And we're like, like it looks like we're about to get into it, right? Like get into a fight,
right?
And my guy's like, yo, it's Louisiana, like people carry, you know what I mean? So
right.
Like the guy who's with us, and we're like,
yeah, we're not thinking that way.
Guys are like, all right, we're out, So we get out. We're like, we'll see you tomorrow at the camp. He's like, yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. So, but it was like every time was fun. It was wild. It was like adventurous. We did some camps in New Orleans. That was fun. But like Louisiana, they want you to be part of the community. Period. End of story.
Correct.
They want you to come out with them. You got to be willing to go out with them, have a good time, laugh, be a little edgy, no matter what your personality is. Even if you're straight-laced, you still got to go spend time with them, right?
Right.
And that means you're one of them. They want to know that you want to be one of them. And if you do, you're in, dude. Like I can tell you, I'm friends with guys to this day from being down there.
Right. That's just how they are.
They are. I could call, the guy who used to. They're probably at their fifth different school by now, high school wise. But because those guys, the really good ones, go to the big schools to get paid. And I could call them up right now and be like, hey, these guys are legendary coaches now. Like when we were with them, which is 15 years ago, they were at the beginning of their career. Now they're legends. I knew they were going to be legends then because they were good then, but now they're legends, right? They're legends in Louisiana. And I could call them up and they would be like, hey man, if I can't host a camp, I'll tell you where you can go. Like that's who they are. That's how they are. And that's how, that's what makes Louisiana unique and awesome. And
but also tough.
But also tough, right? Because now, if you're not willing to do that, you're going to have a hard time. If you are willing to do it, you get in and you're loved. You're in. They're like family. Then they could also turn on you. You know what I mean? So
that's it.
Like it's
take the good with the bad.
I think it's a great place to be a head coach. You just have to be understanding that you got to know the culture. It's that Cajun culture, that French culture, that American culture. It's all of it mixed into one, and different. It's totally different, but totally awesome. But it's not for everybody.
Absolutely not. It's an acquired type tape.
Well, it's you would like you.
I never thought he was the right fit there. You know what I mean? Like, never thought he was the right fit to do that or be there.
No, you would love it. Like Nick Saban, amazingly, is a great fit because it's the same reason why Nick Saban fit in Alabama. Alabama has a lot of similarities from that standpoint. Like they want you to be part of the family. They want you to be part of what they're doing. Right. And Nick Saban understood that assignment at LSU. He understood it obviously at Alabama, which has more tradition than even LSU. And that's why people are like, "Oh, is Nick Saban going to get offered the job?"
I'm sure they'll ask him.
They might offer him the job. I don't know.
He ain't taking that thing. Absolutely not. No way.
But I could see them offering him the job.
Definitely.
Because he understands it. Like, and the transfer portal there, like, when you go their facilities, I don't know how they are now, but I remember how they were. I mean, I had never seen anything like it. I'm not just talking about like football was great, unbelievable. Stadium's unbelievable. The freaking tigers outside the stadium, Derek.
I know. There's a live goddamn tiger, dude.
He's a live tiger. He's got his own.
That's why they always talk about playing there on a Saturday night is a really difficult place to go.
Dude, the tiger lives right outside the stadium, dude, in his own zoo environment. It's unbelievable. But you go and you look at like the basketball facility, the track facility, the baseball
gymnastics. Jesus, they were leaking stuff today that he was messing around with a gymnast. What the fuck are you doing?
Wait, what? Really? Who was Brian Kelly?
Brian Kelly was messing around with one of the gymnasts. That's why I saw articles was like, somebody should pay this gymnast his buyout money because they just saved LSU a bunch of losses by messing around with him.
Well, I guess Belichick started a trend. Old guys with young women. So
Bobby Petrino.
Yeah, well, Bobby Petrino was an innovator. But Belichick started a trend.
Originator. The originator.
He was the originator. He was the OG.
Belichick just took it to a different level.
Yeah, he took it to a different level. Bobby Petrino was way ahead of the curve. He was so far ahead.
Way ahead of his time. He's like, let's throw this chick on the back of a motorcycle. This is a smart move.
Bobby Petrino, he's back, by the way.
He's back calling plays for fucking Louisville.
Bobby Petrino
can't make it up, buddy. Sometimes
all right.
Can't make it up.
Are we on tomorrow?
Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Yeah, tomorrow, 10 a.m. We have Chris Kerr, who is the director of sports performance of hockey at Liberty University, and he uses Tony Holler. It's sprint-based hockey.
Really?
Yeah. So, and he's a Jersey cat, so he's all juiced. Okay, dude. We haven't had a guest like this in a while who's literally been messaging me like every day, juiced on, like, because we're Jersey guys. He grew up in, I believe, Sparta.
Oh, that's cool. That's
and he's like, dude, I love it, but I'm never going back. Like he's like, hell no. Yeah. We got a couple good ones. Actually,
and then
even for
Thursday's good too. Yeah.
And then Thursday, Collier from Florida. We have next week is really cool too. Next week's coming together. We have actually Max Brown, right? Does CBS Sports now. He's a former USC
quarterback.
Yeah, he's coming
Oh,
on.
yeah, he's great. He's great.
And then Thursday we actually have Goodell, son of Goodell, the wrestling coach at Rutgers, his son, who was a walk-on and just finished his career playing at Rutgers as a receiver. So,
very cool.
Yeah, man. I had like Dave. It was funny because today, like literally, like 5 different guys who I like have messaged like months ago, like literally hit me up and apologized. We're like, hey, sorry, I'm not good with DMs, or hey, man, I'm just seeing this now. I mean, these are things like I put out months ago, and now it's all coming back around. And I'm like, all right, man, like, yeah, let's get it done. And they like even Max Brown. I'm like, dude, you're like working, like you're calling games for CBS college football. Like,
his journey is a wild journey.
That's what I told him. I'm like, hey, like I kind of laid it. Big time recruit. Yep. Yeah. And that's what I said. I said, are you willing to are you cool like talking about it? Absolutely. Let's do it. All right, cool.
Oh, he's great. I remember when he was a recruit. That was during the heyday when I was doing my stuff. He was a big time recruit.
Big time.
Yep, no doubt.
So I'm excited to talk to him and a couple of these other guys. I'm curious about this sprint-based hockey shit tomorrow. Like, dude.
No, yeah. By the way, I want to tell you, because now that our season is over, I did as much sprint-based stuff this year as I could with my team.
Yeah.
And I think it really helped.
So
I think it really helped. I feel like,
dude, I'm so like
we were
this track
consortium
that in December that I'm gonna hit up in Chicago. Like, buddy, it should be something. Because we continued to get faster throughout the season, and other people aren't, man. Yep, and we almost completely did it. We just a couple mistakes, but those kids got better, bro. We're doing it, Derek. We're way undersized compared to everybody else we play all the time. You've said that from the jump. Like you said that from day one. But because you're like, hey, we're going to be smaller, but we're going to be better conditioned, or we're going to, you know what I mean? Like, speed with speed. We use speed for everything. We use speed, literally. Like that was my focus on everything was speed and explosion, and the beginning of the year when we weren't at those levels, and now as we got towards the end of the year, after 4 months of working with them on it. It's not just the plays, it's the players were getting quicker, more explosive throughout the year, and it allowed them at the end of the season to be at their best, which is when you want them to be at their best. And Dave, they're also healthy. You know how many actual soft tissue injuries? None. We had none. There you go. Maybe one. I think. No, we had one ankle injury that lasted a couple days. That was it. 2 days. There you go. And coupled with the tackling philosophy that I went with, we got better. Huge move. We did so much less actual tackling with each other. And got better. And we got much better. And I watched everybody else beat each other up. Yep. And you know what happened at the end of the season? At the end of the season, our guys were still humming along. Yep. And everybody else is they won't say that they're tired because they don't know that they are. They don't know they are. But they're just what happens is kids get tired of, and this goes to high school and college too. They get tired of banging into each other. It's just you get to a wall. You end up hitting a wall. You know what I mean? So, Coach, I agree, buddy. So, but anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. So
I'm trying to figure out how to continue to evolve this in the offseason, because unlike you guys in high school where you have them, well, I don't have them, obviously, because they're playing other sports. So we're trying to figure out how we could do some stuff with them in the offseason so they can continue to go on that path. So instead of entering the season equal to everyone, we could enter ahead, So, but anyway,
that would be huge. If you could figure that out, buddy, I'm sure there'd be a lot of people that would freaking want to know that answer.
Yep. That's what I'm trying to figure out from a youth standpoint, because look, I'm going to do stuff for my own kid that I would do that anyway, but I'm talking about my team because they can, they're going to be playing other sports. What can we do with them that can get them to that point that doesn't overtax them, which is, I believe, which is correct, because they should be able to play basketball, wrestle, baseball,
absolutely,
whatever. It has to not tax them, but on any load level.
Although I will, I'm pointing in this direction. Greg Olson just had Mo Vaughn. Remember Mo Vaughn?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Just had Mo Vaughn on his podcast, and Mo talked about, hey man, if you're not a single sport guy, I think you're falling behind.
Interesting.
And he's got a 13-year-old baseball kid, obviously, but yeah, that was what I listened to this morning.
What was Mo Vaughn himself? Was he a single sport athlete himself, or was he a?
No, I think he played 3.
He probably was that, right, because he was that talented, right?
Correct. And he said the same thing to Greg, like, hey, you played 3 sports, but he's like, this is a different era with the training and this. And that's what he said. Parents just want guys to play games. He's like, but I look at my 13-year-old son, with baseball, and it's, 2 days of hitting, 2 days of strength and conditioning, 2 days of games. That leaves 1 day for him to just whatever, you know what I mean? He doesn't have time to play other sports.
Yes. I do.
It was a different take and an interesting take. I think for baseball, yes. If baseball is going to be your one, 100%. You know what I mean? And we could dive into this whenever, but I'm just saying, I just thought that was a different take. But I think because baseball is the one, I think it's a different perspective, right? Well, and Greg said, he's like, look, we were all in the correct. But he said, Greg Olson was like, hey, we used to all be in the same boat, right? When we went from football to basketball, none of us had shot a basketball since the last time we all were together shooting a basketball. He's like, now there's 3 other kids that have only been shooting a basketball, and we're coming from football. And then when we went to baseball, none of us had picked up a glove or a bat since the previous baseball season. But now there's 8 kids in the starting lineup that have been doing baseball while you're doing basketball or while you're doing football, and they're getting better and you're not, and it's like, you're right. He's not wrong.
You know what the solution is? But people would be like, this will be the solution, by the way. The solution is going to be down the line. You're going to be taught by AI in 1/5 the time that it takes to go to school now. So what does a kid in high school go to school now? How many hours? 8, 7,
6? What is it? 6? What are they in there from? You figure what, 8 to 3?
You will get the same learning in 2 hours. And kids who are athletes. This is it's all going to go to this. Not all. I should say all. A lot of the elite or athletes are going to go to this eventually. They're going to have AI teaching them the things that they need to learn faster than they would learn it in school. And will have more time to train in whatever they're doing. Just like the old gymnastics model. The old gymnastics model.
Sir.
That's what's going to happen because of AI. You're going to be able to learn faster in shorter time, and that'll be interesting what will happen. But the one thing that Mo Vaughn definitely is right on, this is the truth. It is way more competitive than you
100%.
could ever possibly imagine.
100%.
Way more competitive. And
yep.
I'm not just talking about New Jersey. I mean, I look at the South. I mean, I'm like, oh my God, do these kids even go to school as much as they're training?
Doubtful. At all.
I don't think you can do all the things they're doing. Listen, I got to tell you this before I let you go. I think you'll find this funny. I have rewatched what Gabe Kemp used to do when he was younger, because he's ended up being so quick with his feet. The greatest thing about him as a football player is his foot quickness, right? And I'm watching all these things, and I'm like, you know what? Shoot, I'm just gonna start doing those things with my son. And
Might as well.
and you know what? Because I'm like, you know what? If you don't develop quick feet, like
You got nothing.
you got nothing. Like I could develop speed over time and still not have quick feet, right? So
Correct.
I could develop a sprinter per se, but they may not have quick feet for a sport like football or basketball. So I said, you know what? I'm going to develop quick feet. I'm like, Gabe Kemp was, or I guess his dad was onto something. Amazing. You know, so I'm like, I pulled up the stuff and I wrote it all down. I'm like, these are good. These are the drills I like, and these are the drills I think can work. So it is amazing. You could always learn. You could even learn in the reverse fashion from someone.
Damn right.
Much younger, because when you see someone succeed in that, and obviously he has a lot of talent. There's no doubt about that.
Well, that's the, you know.
Yeah. I mean, that's the kicker. But you know, they're like what you train your body to do is what you'll do. So you
Yes,
can get
sir.
better at it. Like, I don't know, you know, I'm taller than you, so it's going to be hard for me to turn over the way that you could turn over in the short run, but I could train to get better at it, to get
Correct.
closer to how fast you could turn over.
And
right?
that's his only sport, right? I think that's his only sport.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I didn't know. Is that all he plays? Maybe he runs track.
I think that's maybe. I mean, I'm sure. I would like to see if he did something else, but I mean,
I know the
hell of a start to the career.
Oh,
and you got Mid-North, Mid-South, first round of the playoffs.
Oh my God! So they're playing each other and Thanksgiving?
Yep.
When is that game?
Friday night.
Oh my God!
At South. I was gonna ask you. I was like,
I'm
buddy.
Going. I'm gonna go to that. I don't know which side I stand on.
Right down the middle, bud.
That's it. That's in the middle. Obviously, we would, if we go to public school, we'd be going to South. So I know somebody. I know both. Oh, you know who I saw yesterday? I saw Killian and I can't believe it's
Ryan.
Yes, Ryan.
The quarterback.
No,
or
not the
receiver.
The receiver.
Is he playing?
They're both hurt.
Oh, well, they're young.
Ankles. Yeah, like it was one had something on the leg. But I was in there because we have that's where we practice Mid-South basketball. Okay. So I'm there and I'm just, you know, whatever drill we're doing. They're like, Coach. I'm like, someone talking to me? I turn around, it was them, you know. I was like, oh my God.
That's awesome.
They're like, how's it going? I'm like, oh great, you know.
You're like, oh great.
Of course, people are always perplexed. How do you know the high school players? I'm like, well, I see them. I'm like, you guys coming back in the spring? What's up? They're like, they're like, we're thinking about it. I'm like, do you think it helped? And they're like, yes.
Well, there you go.
You know,
proof is in the pudding, boys.
Let's get you guys back and rolling. But yeah, no, it's that'll be interesting. I got to go to that game because both have like.
They're both like the same.
You have Pinelands, right? No. Who do you have? Yep.
Pinelands. And he's making a big stink about he's 6-3 and should be in the playoffs. So he's like making a huge fuss and like trying to get all the media or whatever. Listen, I'm good with that. Like, good. Have your team focused on that so we can come in and, you know, do what we hopefully do and then collect equipment and be done.
Oh, all right. I'll see you tomorrow.
See you in the morning.
You got it.